All right, looks like we're live, and I am here with the Knuckles and Tails to my Sonic, Luke, and Undertow.
What's up? Hello, everyone.
Alrighty. Lot to talk about this week. The first thing, I guess, worth mentioning, I don't even know how to begin talking about this. Somebody doxed the Right Stuff guys, and I've heard a lot of conflicting reports. I've actually heard that Ghoul got doxed first, and then he gave Antifa a bunch of other people's information. I don't know, and none of it surprises me. But apparently, Mike Enoch, he turns out to be this dumpy IT guy with a Jewish wife.
Who used to work for the NSA.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard people.
Although
say
it's a different NSA, like it's a different acronym that just happens to be NSA. That's the joke, from what I've heard.
I don't know. A lot of I know Matt Forney was really enjoying this whole mess because the Right Stuff guys have been absolute shitheads to him. Because the Right Stuff guys never could watch their fire. I had a rant on here a couple weeks ago about professionalism, about watching your fire, about not picking fights where you don't need to be picking fights. And that's a memo those guys never got.
Yeah, they took pot shots at everybody.
Yeah, everybody, all the time, from the safety of, anonymity. And I don't mean merely safety. I mean, like, the social safety. Nobody can call you fat because nobody knows. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, now we know. Yeah, you're a little fat. I mean, and I certainly need to lose a few myself, but I'm also not out here claiming to be an Aryan Superman. And therein lies where I think the real kind of crime of it. The real where I look at him and like he kind of. Nobody. It's not that they dug a skeleton out of Mikey Knox's closet. You know what I mean? It's not that we dug up his browser history and don't look at another man's portal gun. We all go to weird places. We all have things in our past we're ashamed of. We all have mistakes we've made. Blood of the lamb and all that. No, it's that apparently he turned out to be nothing like what he portrayed himself as. Nothing like it.
And now from what I've read, a lot of them are now saying, "Oh, it was all a joke all along."
But
the people who were involved so heavily with this kind of stuff. I mean, these are the kind of people who don't notice that half of the other people there are police plants.
Here's the thing: these same types of guys, they go out after Forney viciously. I am shocked at times at the amount of hatred Forney gets from the fucking anime Nazis, for lack of a better term. And yeah, he takes pot shots at NEETs and stuff like that. But that's because Forney's from the manosphere, where we take pot shots at each other and we encourage each other to better ourselves. Get the fuck out of your mom's basement, all that good stuff. And yeah, Forney is out in the open. He's an open book. His flaws are out there. Another good example is Christopher Cantwell. And, in case you say, oh, well, you're just Forney's friend, you're sticking up for him. I don't know Cantwell personally, okay? I've chatted with him on the social medias a little bit. I enjoy his show, but, if you said Chris Bechtloff to him, he probably would not know the name. But look at Cantwell. Cantwell's an open book with his flaws. At times, perhaps a bit too much. But there they are, okay? When you're hiding behind just a fucking screen name, boy, isn't it easy to take pot shots at every motherfucker in your, that wanders into your field of vision. Because you are ostensibly perfect.
why I don't take pot shots, because I don't want to be accused of using my anonymity as a mere shield. You know, I do this to protect, of course, people in my family who are in business and such, who would be very, you know, looked down upon, I guess you would say, if any political opinion was from someone in their family was being broadcast like I do, you know. And it's just better safe than sorry kind of thing with me. Not any kind of, oh, I can't let people see me. Like, I would love to have a face cam, because I am narcissistic enough. I'm gonna be honest. I listen to these podcasts after we record them because I like the sound of my own voice. Like, I'm just, you know. But again, I don't want to put anyone close to me at any kind of risk from especially now with people being so vindictive and petty.
I know what you mean. And, you know, that makes
but
sense.
But at the same time, just because I am an anonymous person does not mean that I sit here and fling shit and scream about how, you know, we need to kill every Jew. You know, which is what TRS did from day one. And I mean, yeah, okay, there's freedom of speech and all that, but holy shit, you have to speak like a sane person.
It's not even that half the time with them. And I mean, yeah, you know, gas every Jew while I'm married to one. That's cute. But no, it's that, you know, all the time with them taking pot shots at you know, people on the right. And as soon as like Matt Forney started reveling in this guy's misfortune, everybody come at him. All the right stuff fans come at him with, you know, no enemies to the right.
Oh yeah, now.
Yeah, now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when these guys indiscriminately took pot shots at anybody and everybody, you know, now we all need to come together.
Yeah, I think that's fitting for the title of their website. Life isn't fair, sucks for you, but I don't care.
Well,
I mean, I've read some articles from the right stuff I've really liked. I don't necessarily have a beef with these guys, but at the same time, I mean, you know, if you don't have a tremendous amount of allies right now, beyond just your dick riding fans, then maybe take a step back and wonder why.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they continually threw shade at everybody else, that's why they're high and dry now. People went to bat for Millennial Woes, and he came back stronger than ever from it.
That's a great point. Look, at the exact same time Enoch was going through this shit, Millennial Woes was getting doxxed, and I mean, basically on the run from the law, because I mean, you know, he lives in parts of the world where you can get arrested for saying there's 4 lights.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even cucks like Sargon went to bat for him.
Yeah.
Because Millennial Woes isn't an asshole.
Mm-hmm. And he's a genuinely kind heart as well. You know, you need, all you have to do is speak with him for 5 minutes to realize why he used to be a liberal and why he is not now. It's because he cares. He genuinely cares about other people. And you never got that vibe from TRS. All that you got from them was, it's bad for us to say this, so we're going to say it as loud as we can. Like if it was the Bush administration, they would be a liberal podcast.
Yeah, and I mean
they've always struck me as just being anti-establishment, not because the establishment is wrong, but because that's what they want to do.
Yeah, and look, I mean, like I said, I'm far from fucking perfect out here. All right, you know, and I don't believe I've ever really tried to portray myself as otherwise. I am a deeply flawed guy. You know, I've made my share of mistakes. You know, I didn't. And I got a lot of room for improvement, but I'm also not, you know, taking shots at anybody and everybody, because that's not a wise thing to do especially when you don't really have the high ground.
Don't try it, DRS. I have the high ground.
And look, I don't. A lot of people have been saying like, "Oh, it's going to ruin him." I doubt it. I really doubt it. Because look, I am shocked at the the people running around. Mike Enoch, a good boy, he didn't do nothing. Their dick riding fans are going to forever be dick riding fans. That's just how it is. I mean, for fuck's sake, Spoonie. People send money to fucking Spoonie, all right? And he openly hates his fans, and people send him money. Speaking of which, do check out the tip jar below, everybody. But he has an open contempt for his fans, and they send him money, and he doesn't produce anything anymore. He doesn't do anything but just sit around and hate himself, but not have the balls to end it. That's all Spoonie does
our
anymore.
contempt for our fans isn't in the open.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
all right. Well, speaking of such things, so Richard's apparently righton.com, I guess it is, that Forney writes for, it got merged to some other site or something. It's becoming altright.com, right? Essentially. Well, Forney stuff has already moved there. Well, the other day, Richard Spencer, who, as we all know, is a big fan of implicit white identity, he put out this tweet where, Matt Forney will not be a part of altright.com. And, all the fucking neats under it, put down their attendees for a minute to tweet about how great that is because, for whatever reason, a lot of these alt-right guys fucking hate Forney.
Forney tells me to hold myself to a standard. I don't like him.
They usually turn out to be, beardsome, beardly, the butt pirate type guys, where they're based. A lot of these guys turn out to be absolute trash when I interact with them. But whatever. Roosh is a rapey kebab because I can't get sex. Anyways, turns out that's wrong. Forney is at altright.com. I asked Forney. He said it was a miscommunication. If you ask me, Spencer's being a sneaky little shit and throwing Forney under the bus. Earliest chance he thought he had.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Spencer is not fucking in charge of this site. Spencer had no say over it. And Spencer is... Look, I don't know Richard Spencer personally. I could be wrong here. Maybe I am. All right? But Spencer's a fucking slime ball, in my opinion. And I say that it has nothing to do with his goddamn politics. He's just a slime ball personally. Okay? I've said before he's an attention whore, and I don't trust the guy further than I could throw him.
Honestly, I'd like to punch him in the face.
It's funny you should mention that. Because recently, Spencer was punched in the face. And by some Antifa asshole who we'll get into in a moment, the wonderful story behind this gentleman. And it's funny. One of those pathetic alt-light cucks, Paul Joseph Watson, actually went to bat for Spencer there. And I go to bat for him too. You shouldn't be, nobody has a right to just punch you in the fucking face.
No.
In the middle of,
no matter how much we don't like you and no matter how much we disagree with you. No.
But yeah, look, I'm not even going to go so far as to say I have any kind of beef with Spencer. It's just, I don't believe I'd turn my back on him. Let me put it that way. I don't trust him. I really just don't. And that thing with Forney was the last start. Look, Forney went to bat for Spencer during that fucking, Roman salute gate. All right. Spencer acted like a goddamn fool at his gay little conference, and Forney was there backing him up. Forney was up there standing up for him. At least all that I saw. I never saw Forney take any pot shots at him for it. I saw Forney, had his back. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong there. But as far as I saw, Forney had his back. And then Spencer throws Forney under the bus first chance he gets to appeal to the lowest common denominator out there. But anyways, Spencer's there, talking to the mainstream media because, he's never apparently read Vox Day's blog on why you shouldn't do that. No media discipline. Got to get that hot load of attention splashed in his face. Well, he got a little something else in his face. He got a fist in his face. Some Antifa shithead sucker punched him and then ran off like a little bitch, because that's how Antifa rolls. Well, and Luke, you can bring up the picture, and please do bring up the one I censored. Anon did a little bit of digging on this gentleman.
God.
Now look,
Anon, I wish you hadn't delivered this time.
Now look, I mean, sometimes I'd like to think of myself as kind of a kinky dude. I've dabbled in those BDSM black arts, you know what I'm saying? But I am a fucking prude next to this guy. All right. My wildest sexcapades are nothing but, missionary sex with the lights off compared to this gentleman. This gentleman is a literal shit-eating cuck.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Now, as you can see here, Luke, I don't know if you'll bring your mouse around, but the middle picture here, I did a little MS Paint spray painting over the sad little Goomba between his legs here. And then you'll notice in the bottom left there, you'll notice the picture is completely blacked out.
Please do not zoom in.
Yeah, you'll notice this picture. Well, you might as well. This picture is completely blacked out. There is a reason for that. I didn't want to show any part of that picture. This is easy enough to find. As I said, Paul Joseph Watson even retweeted it. But that was this young lady in question, his dominatrix, taking a dump on him. And
by the way, Bechtloff sent me the uncensored version.
I sure did. Oh, and I also blurred out
telling me what it was.
I also blurred out her blowing the bowl down here because I don't want YouTube to get in trouble. But to take a dump, I'm like, I don't even know. I don't think for YouTube standards I had to censor any of that. But I'm like, what am I gonna blur out the turd? I don't know what I'm gonna do here. So we're just gonna black out that whole sad episode there in the corner. So behold the mighty Antifa. Nazis beware.
I think it was Antidim recently posted on Facebook that picture with Stalin looking all confused and worried, and it's got a bunch of these people down in front of him. But yeah, it's oh God. Can you imagine what the leaders of the Soviet Union think of the modern day communists?
Well, you have to understand that communists promote sexual degeneracy when they're trying to establish a communist state, because they're trying to knock down the pre-existing state. But yeah, this guy's lined up against the wall as soon as the communist New World Order is put into place, because we need people to have children and pump out more workers, and you don't generally have children when someone's shitting in your mouth.
Yeah.
That's not how that happens. In fact, you usually get sick a lot, and you're not a very good worker. So you're not a very good cog in the machine when you're this fucking freak, all right? This guy opened the Hellraiser box, and then Pinhead was like, oh, geez.
No. He opened the Hellraiser Hypercube.
The four-dimensional Hypercube. The one picture here we see, she's putting a cigarette out on his tongue.
Oh,
that's
how pleasant. Isn't this just a wonderful thing? This is what freedom exists for, right? This is the most important thing in life, isn't it?
Why did he have to be the one to punch Spencer in the face, though? That's not. Seems kind of low.
He's the only one with no inhibitions left.
It's a good thing Spencer didn't get a chance to punch him back. I mean, Lord knows what diseases he could have got.
I hope he disinfected his face.
Yeah, I know.
Much as I disagree with the guy, I don't want him to die. Gangrene.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, no word yet, though, on whether or not this guy represents implicit white identity from Spencer. We'll have to wait and see. Shitty cuckoldry is the last stand of implicit white identity.
Oh, Spencer.
Wow. Like I said, I had, man, what? This guy's willingly posing for photographs like this too. Which
raises the question: how these
this isn't even something he's ashamed of.
Oh.
Which kind of raises the question: how these photographs become publicly available?
Well, it's interesting you should mention that.
It's the internet.
No. It's interesting you should mention that. Apparently, this chick, if you look at some of the pictures here, she has a website, no doubt, where cucks send her money, and these pics are apparently on her website because there's a little watermark on some of these pictures, like the toilet one. If you see in the corner here, something.com, like I don't know if it's Mistress Misanthrope. I think that was taken by Ann Sturzinger, but I don't think she craps on people though at hers. I'm not sure. We'll have to ask her, but how fucking jaded you gotta be. He's just the picture where he's got the leash too is, I think it's kind of the funniest picture because he's like he's so far gone, the leash and collar isn't even doing it for him anymore. Like if you zoom in on his face in that picture, that is the face of a man who's like, well, this just gets me to normal. The collar isn't even doing it for me.
Wow.
I don't even want to know what he's eating in the picture where I had to censor his little Goomba there. I don't.
You know exactly what he's eating. Don't pretend you don't know what he's eating.
I don't want to know. I choose to not know.
If only.
Man, where the hell did I put my drink? I think I left it upstairs. I was about to reach for my drink, and I just left it upstairs. All right, I got to go get my drink. Undertow, you're in charge.
All right. Discussion of this guy is now banned.
I'll be right back.
Shit. Literally. I mean,
in later news,
Christ almighty, deliver me from this evil.
Only death will do that for you, my friend. Speaking of lighter news, but in lighter news, how do you enjoy the inauguration?
It was a fantastic display. My mom was very, she did the woman thing. Oh no, don't be so divisive when your inauguration speech, and she had to change the channel. But I got her to watch the full speech later, and she was like, "Wow, that was really amazing." Because it was he didn't go up there and parrot the same wishy-washy crap that everyone else has done on the stage. That was a historical moment because he got up there and he took a stand. And moreover, he signaled to they're like, "Oh, he's just talking to the same people he was during the election cycle." Yes.
So I take it we're on to the inauguration yet?
Exactly. And basically,
what a speech.
Right? But it's as I was just saying, he took an absolute stand when he got up there. He didn't use all this wishy-washy weasel words that everyone does in their...
You know what I was very impressed with?
Let me finish, damn it. I had a thing going before you got back. Anyway, everyone says that, he was just speaking to his own electorate, his own camp. But that's exactly the point. He's showing us that he's not going to falter from everything that he said just because he's won the election now and it's safe, like most politicians do. All right, now go.
Well, also, bear in mind that, Barack Obama basically got up there both times, I won.
Yeah.
Especially the second time.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found really interesting was, first of all, he was magnanimous, but in a way that didn't involve losing any strength. You know what I mean? He got up there and he said, you know, it's a blessing that we have peaceful transitions of power in this country, and the Obama team has been very gracious, and which they probably weren't.
Yeah, but it was
But he was like,
really
David, very
nice
gracious.
dig,
And I
even
think
if-
I remember him saying something like, and I want to thank Secretary Clinton for being here. You know,
Actually, yeah, he officially recognized her at the luncheon. And
okay, I wasn't sure if it was in the speech,
which
or not,
is,
but
you know, it's actually kind of nice to see, because the Clintons actually were at his wedding.
you know,
So
I mean, you know, he's nicer than me. I would have in the speech
Yeah.
been like, "Oh, and Secretary Clinton, I'll see you hang."
yeah,
But as I said before, if he does go after them, and he should, he has to look reluctant to do it.
Mhm.
But yeah, he started it with this magnanimous tone, and then was like, "But just so we're here, or just so we're clear, shit's going to change."
yeah.
Like, yeah, Barry, thanks for being nice to me. Now watch as I dismantle everything you've done.
Yes. And like the part of when he was talking about Washington, quote unquote Washington, that might as well have been directly addressed to the 69 people who didn't go to the inauguration, the 69 senators. I mean.
Well, one of the cucks over at NBC said, well, he was basically insulting the 5 living presidents that were there. And I'm like, good.
Yeah, they deserved it.
They're all fucking garbage. I mean, yeah, it was a hell of an address. There were a few things that stood out to me. Number one, his foreign policy was one of strength, but not stupid neocon, let's put our dick in every hornet's nest in the world strength.
Mm-hmm.
One of the lines that stood out to me was, America will pursue her interests, and we will recognize the right of other nations to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
That is not something George W. Bush believed in or Barack Obama believed in. He might have pretended to a little bit when he ran back in 2008, but that's nothing any of these people ever believed in. As much as a lot of my fellow libertarians, and I don't even call myself a libertarian anymore, but the people from that camp, let's say my fellow Ron Paul supporters from back in the day, as much as a bunch of them want to shit on Trump for being too big government or whatever, that is the most Ron Paul-esque foreign policy we have ever heard from a president in centuries.
Mm-hmm.
It was remarkable. That stood out to me as like, yes, that is what it's all about there.
Mm-hmm. British James just sent me a message screaming, talk about Bain posting in the speech. Listen, there was no Bain posting in the speech. Giving it back to the people is a very generic phrase, and that was a total stretch to try and say that he was quoting Bain.
Yeah, look, that's the thing. Give it back to the people, and then it's like the Bain post. I'll give it back to the... Like, look, I mean, don't get me wrong. He could have come out there in a fucking Bain mask, and I'd have been happy, all right?
Yeah.
You know, if his inaugural address was, to all you leftists, now is not the time for fear. That comes later. And then just walked away. I'd have been like, yeah, that was fucking awesome. Thanks, Trump.
Oh God, my internet is dying.
But yeah, that was not Bain posting. That was, and again, the media's just making themselves look silly. Like in this 10-minute speech, one line sort of sounds like a line that this guy in a movie said once. Come on. You're just embarrassing yourself here. Oh, man. So the cartoon, I expect Trump to drop out of the race.
Yes. They're still thinking it.
Oh, man. It was it was a remarkable speech. I was listening to it Friday. It's funny. I had a bunch of people on Twitter all like, you know, are you going to be doing a live stream Friday? I'm like, I got to work. Yeah, I got a day job, people. I don't know what to tell you. You know, I already took off once this month to get that Brian Cutler interview together, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out, you really should. My interview with State Representative Brian Cutler, it turned out really well. But, you know, I can only take off. I mean, my day job's pretty generous with days off, but it's still finite, people, all right? As I said, you know, I said to the guy on Twitter, I'm like, hey, you need me to stream more, maybe up the donations.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a hell. I listened to it at work. I wasn't watching it, but I was listening to it, and it was a hell of a speech.
I think my internet is stabilized.
Okay. The patient is Oh, and yeah, he talked about NASA too.
Yeah,
It was all like, yeah, we're
gonna have a space empire. It really is the God Emperor.
It was remarkable. It was a call for greatness in this country again, and
And I don't know about the rest of you guys, but it's even now as they see Trump in office, it's just such a surreal experience to know that a non-politician is in the White House. It's just so much fun.
oh, that reminds me. I want to read a little tweet from Bill Kristol if I could.
Ooh, what did he say?
This is well, let me bring it up. I quote retweeted it, so it'll be on my timeline. Let me bring it up. Let's see. Come on, where is it? Here we go. All right. So Bill Kristol said, and I'll throw this in the chat, Luke, so you could throw up a picture of it.
Right.
And this was tweeted during Trump, or right after Trump's inaugural address, I guess. Bill Kristol said at 1:28 p.m. on January 20th, "I'll be unembarrassedly old-fashioned here. It is profoundly depressing and vulgar to hear an American president proclaim America first."
Gee, I wonder where that line comes from. Ugh.
You know, I actually quote tweeted it and said it above it where I'm like, I suppose you would rather he said Israel first, you treasonous piece of filth.
I mean, come on.
Who does this guy think he is? Honestly.
Prime Minister of Zog.
I think he's the guy that needs to get the fuck out of my helicopter.
You have the right to scream in terror.
I mean, what? It's funny too. After I quote tweeted that, somebody was tweeting at me, and they thought Bill Kristol was a liberal. Like, I'd seen him on CNN a lot in the past. I thought he was a liberal. I'm like, well, kind of. He's a neocon. It's sort of like a liberal, except they don't even pretend to be anti-war.
Like a liberal, except even worse.
Yeah, it's like a pro-life liberal that just loves bombing brown people. I mean, yeah, liberals bomb brown people too, but they pretend like they don't like it.
They act reluctant.
Or worst of all, they forget that they're doing it while they're doing it.
Or they deny that they're doing it.
So what else we got to talk about here? I mean, there was the inauguration. I mean, I don't even know what to say to it. It was just, I mean, and Trump had his press secretary come out today. And
oh yeah, this is great.
What the hell's the guy's name? Sean Spice, I think it is. Sean Spicer, something like that.
Spicy Sean.
Well, yeah, he dropped some spicy memes. All right, he went out there and was basically like, "You're all bad and should feel bad. I'll take no questions." Like, that was basically just like he went out there and he's like, "The media was lying about the size of the crowd at the inauguration, and while you were busy lying, Trump was meeting with members of the CIA and meeting with the Mexican president and doing all this stuff, and you're all full of shit." and no questions. It just walks out. "I'll see you Monday, bitches."
Trump is now going to have a daily announcer to just go out to correct the press at this point.
Seriously.
My thing was I wanted to like make like fucking like My two top choices were for press secretary were Ann Coulter or Milo Yiannopoulos. Those were my choices. All right? Like, and then you know what you do every once in a while? You have what was the name? What was the name Trump used when he called into the radio show? Like John Miller. That's what you do once in a while. You have John Miller as press secretary, and it's just Trump wearing a fake mustache.
Oh, that was so fun. Oh.
Like, imagine Ann Coulter as press secretary. Like, yes, the faggot from the New York Times.
Sorry if you guys could hear that storm outside, by the way.
Oh, no, it's all right.
Oh no! Oh, Milo would be so over the top every single time. Oh, I mean, he's in the middle of his faggot tour, and he's dressing up into something different every single time, including a white dress and a over the top afro wig.
Milo takes a question from the New York Times guy, like, "Hey, didn't I see you at that one bathhouse?" But seriously, like, I mean, right away, I'm looking at this press secretary who's just, all jokes aside, just getting out there taking no shit, calling them in on a Saturday to tell them they're bad and should feel bad, and it's like no questions, and walking away. I'm like, it's gonna be a fun 8 years.
What a way to kick things off!
Like, wow.
And you were saying this before, Bechtloff, like, considering the new administration and how well they're handling it, it almost seems unnecessary for us to critique on everything all the time because they're doing the right thing.
Like, make no mistake, like, later in the show, I'm going to be talking about, like, Zelda and comic books and stuff because, like, I don't, what do we even need to be talking about politics for right now? I'm in a bit of a coasting mode, if I'm telling you the truth. It's like, wow, I'm just going to sit back. I don't have anything to add. I'm just sitting back and basking in the glory of what Trump is doing. It's even more
like we got a real man at the helm of the government. You know, we've got Obama gone. We've got video games coming out that I'm actually looking forward to. I mean, like, we really are back in the Stein universe.
Yeah, look at this. I mean, Undertow and I were talking about this the other day. You know, Sonic Mania is coming out, which looks great. The Sonic the Hedgehog series is looking like it's going to be great again.
No,
wow. Were you even born back when it was still good?
No.
You know, there's a really awesome 3D Mario game coming out on the Switch. And, of course, Zelda Breath of the Wild looks amazing. So Zelda, Mario, and Sonic are getting some fresh life, you know, pumped into them. And in Sonic's case,
all of them are having things. All of the new games for those franchises are also going back to older formulas that already worked.
And hell, even Bomberman's coming back.
Oh, shit, yeah.
So, you know, video games are great again. Now, if only this magical energy could be applied to Marvel Comics, I'd be in Fat City. Like, we need some adults in charge over there desperately. But yeah, it's, you know, I mean, hell, according to Undertow, even the last Star Wars movie was good. And Star Wars hasn't been good since the year I was born. And I'm getting old.
Well, Sonic hasn't been good since the year I was born.
Yeah, it's making America great again here. Sonic 3 and Knuckles was the last truly great Sonic game in my opinion.
That was 93.
I thought that was 94, but
nope, 93.
But in either case, yeah, it hasn't been truly great since.
It may have been that Knuckles came out in 94, but
I think that one came out in 94.
I'm 100% certain that Sonic 3, the base game, came out in 93.
Yeah. Anyways, let's
autism aside, let's talk about some autistic shit.
Yeah. Well, let's do some sponsors here because we got some sponsors we got to cover.
What I said.
And you know, that's the fine people who bring this program to you. And among those fine people who bring this program to you are the good folks over at Button Naked. That's with one N, Button Naked at Etsy.com. ButtonNaked.Etsy.com, I should say. And if you use the promo code, let me bring this promo code up because I want to make sure I get it right. Use the promo code Shitlord with a 5 instead of an S, because apparently the owner of the shop was unable to use the term Shitlord as a promo code. If you use the promo code Shitlord with a 5, that is the number 5 and then HITLORD, you will get 20% off any order of $20 or more. And Butt Naked rocks. Look, I love the guy's stuff there. He's got vinyl decals, like for the back of your car or whatnot. He's got tons of buttons, obviously, with the name. And get you some buttons from there. Look, like he's got one of Donkey Kong that says Ape Culture. It's geeky stuff, but also shitlordy stuff. And really, really good stuff. I highly recommend it. If you're a nerd like me and you're going to, you're going to a game con or a comic book con or whatever, these are great buttons to have on you. Tons of great stuff. Like he's got one of Shut Up Meryl with Meryl Streep with a little thing over her mouth. Really great stuff there. Cartoons, comics, video game characters, all that sort of stuff. Trump stuff, vinyl decals, anime, Rick and Morty, what have you. Tons of great stuff.
Steven Universe.
Yes, also Steven Universe. Tons of great stuff, but also Steven Universe. Also, ad is, of course, the independent comic Ojo Negro. And again, joking earlier, comics are in rough shape right now. They really are. In fact, we're going to get into that a little bit later on a possible beginnings of a crash. But comics are in rough shape right now. So get you a comic book based, written by a guy, salt of the earth K type, anti-globalist guy. Really, really good stuff. Available in digital and print form. You can get you an actual physical copy. Because as Stan Lee once said, comic books are like boobs. It's all well and good to see them on a screen, but you'd rather hold them in your hands.
Excelsior!
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said Excelsior right after that. Also, the book Reactionary Liberty, which is basically a manifesto arguing on how libertarianism needs to get a little bit more Pinochet in it. It's basically a manifesto arguing much of what Christopher Cantwell would have been arguing over the past couple of years, past year in particular. So do check that out. I intend to check it out myself, but and full disclosure, I haven't read it, but I intend to. It's a very interesting subject. Do check that book out. Also, we have the fine books by Aaron Clarey. Books such as Bachelor Pad Economics, Worthless, which I have seen Worthless all but save lives. I've seen that, alter the trajectory of young lives 10 times better. I'm not going to college, not pissing away your money on useless liberal arts degrees. Black Man's Guide Out of Poverty, Enjoy the Decline, all sorts of great books. Curse of the High IQ, which I believe is has an audio book format by our very own Undertow.
Yes.
And as Aaron Clarey would like you to know, reading sucks and it is really inefficient. Why read when you can listen? And that's why he has lots of audio books. I believe almost all, if not all, of his books are available in audio format. So do check that out. And also, you will notice that there is a tip jar down there where you can give me some shekels, because I need some shekels. Pardon me. Pardon me. Coughing on my own self-promotion there. I need some shekels, all right? Because if I'm going to keep doing this, if I'm going to put more time into this, if I'm going to maybe be taking time off to cover things, I need some shekels. You putting shekels in my pocket helps me make this show better. It helps me be able to justify more time, more equipment possibly. And yes, there are going to be video game shows coming. I realize I've been saying they've been coming for a while, but I have been focusing a great deal of creative energy on the election, which had only been amping up as we got closer to it. But if I'm being honest with you, I don't want to say I'm burned out on politics, but I kind of do want to focus on some other stuff. I want to focus on some happier stuff because I'm happy. You know?
Yeah, same here. I have no qualms about saying that I'm burned out on politics.
Well, I don't even say that. 'Cause,
Personally.
I mean, I would still be doing this all the time with a heavy politics focus. But I do want to talk about some happy stuff. You know, I want to talk about some stuff I love. I want to talk about some stuff that I think is perhaps deeply flawed, but also very interesting. The primary show I want to do for doing video game shows was a working title is Not That Bad, where I look at games that are universally hated, particularly retro games, and look at whether or not they're really that bad and what are the redeeming qualities in these games. You know, games like
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Possibly Shadow the Hedgehog, but I specifically have plans for Castlevania 2, the original NES Ninja Turtles, E.T. on the Atari, which I contend is no worse than 90% of what's on the Atari. Bubsy, which I think is bad, but I think people get wrong why it's bad. I got a lot of stuff like that I'd like to focus on.
Basically, if John Tron or the Angry Video Game Nerd have done a video on it.
Among other things, but there's a couple of other things I want to talk about. But yeah, look, a lot of times these games are hated simply because these high-end internet celebrities did a video shitting on it.
Mm-hmm.
And no one has given it any more thought than that. You know, I think it's worth taking another look at them. There's a lot of LGN games. As much as everyone universally hated LGN back on the Nintendo, there's a lot of LGN games that are actually really good because LGN never made a single game in its existence. They published games that other studios made, and those studios included talents like Rare. Some of those games are pretty damn good. Now, a lot of them are crap, but because LGN didn't care, they just farted out what they could. But some of them games are pretty damn good. Nightmare on Elm Street, for example, I think is a damn good horror game for NES era horror games. But anyways, all that investment into this channel, that happens the more people are donating to me. And you know, and as I've said numerous times, it behooves you to support the alternative media you enjoy. And that's not just me. That's if you're enjoying Christopher Cantwell. That's if you're enjoying, you know, even non-political. If you're enjoying the video game historian, you know, whatever. It behooves you to support the people you enjoy. It really does. Because it's easy to complain about all the crap that's out there, but are you really supporting the stuff you like? And if you enjoy my show, I certainly appreciate that. Toss me a buck or two, you know. What, I got 50 people listening right now. If you all toss me $2, that's $100 right there. You know, and what's $2 to you? It's a soda at the gas station. All right, so enough. You know, obligatory e-begging is of course obligatory. Something else I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of nerdy. I actually was going to bring a friend of mine on this week for a live stream, maybe a pre-recorded thing. He's the buddy I used to do the comic stand with at the flea market each week. So he still does it, by the way. So he's got his finger on the pulse of at least the back issue hunting crowd. You know what I mean? And obviously people come in asking for new issues, and he gets new issues when he can, but he's primarily does back issues. Anyways, I wanted to have him on because I wanted to talk about something interesting I saw. That, look, I've been saying for a while that I think the comic book industry is headed for a second crash. And there's a lot of reasons I think that. Number one, the sales aren't good. And even the sales we see are misleading in and of themselves because those generally represent what stores order, not what they sell. So if a whole shitload of a comic book is sitting on the shelf, like let's say Occupy Avengers or the Muslim Miss Marvel, you know, if they're sitting on the shelf because nobody wants that crap, because nobody does, then they sit on the shelf. But the fact of the matter is that Occupy Avengers book from a couple of weeks ago that I made fun of, maybe a month or two ago now, my local comic book store ordered a shit ton of those. I don't know why, but he did. And in Marvel's eyes, they sold those books because they did. They sold them to him. So I've said for a while that the comic book industry is headed for a crash. And I saw something this week that made me think maybe it's coming. Maybe this is the beginning signs of it. Pardon me, I got a snoot full here. Sonic the Hedgehog has been a comic book over at Archie for 24 years now. Now, that is a staggering number for what Sonic the Hedgehog is. It is a comic book aimed primarily at a younger audience based on a licensed property, specifically a video game. And it's run for 24 years continuously. And for much of that history has had multiple series. There is Sonic the Hedgehog published by Archie. There is also Sonic the Universe, which focuses on other Sonic characters in that world. And then there was also spin-off books such as Sonic X, based on the cartoon Sonic X, which is terrible, and Sonic Boom, based on the cartoon Sonic Boom, and I guess also the video game series that's based off of it, but which is actually not bad from what I've heard. Neither one of those lasted that particularly long, but still. And hell, Knuckles had his own series for like 25 issues or something like that. Point is, Sonic has gone on for 24 years. It is almost at issue 300. It is coming up on issue 300. That's pretty impressive. To put that in context, the second most successful video game comic book, at least that I know of, long running, was Tomb Raider over at Top Cow, had 50 issues. Well, 52 if you count issues 0 and 1/2, because late 90s, early 2000s, that's just how comics were. And also, I think there might have been annuals. I know there were one-shots and miniseries and whatnot, but Sonic has had a bunch of one-shots and miniseries too. So let's say 52 issues. And then if you count,
it's gone.
And if you count the 20 some odd, maybe it's 30 some odd now that is over at Dark Horse based on Tomb Raider, based on the newer Tomb Raider, the what I like to say boring Tomb Raider, the more grounded stuff. Even if you add that to it, it's still not even close to where Sonic is. So Sonic is damn near Archie. Sonic is easily Archie's most successful licensed property. And bear in mind, they had the Ninja Turtle license for a good long time. Back when that meant something, when that meant a whole lot, back in their heyday. So that's impressive. Well, the rumor going around right now is that Archie is going to ditch Sonic. Because if you go on the site, last I checked at least, subscriptions to Sonic and Sonic Universe are no longer available.
No.
And the free comic books Archie is supposed to be putting out. By the way, Free Comic Book Day is the first Saturday in May, in which comic companies give to comic book stores stacks of just that, free comics specifically made for that day. The Free Comic Book Day Archie was going to put out, the listing went from a Sonic comic to an Archie comic. Yeah. And there's been no official word on what any of this means, if anything. But what it sounds like is maybe Archie has lost the license, which I can't imagine Sega would yank the license away, because Sonic has been a more successful comic book character than a video game character for a very long time.
Yeah.
Particularly coming up on Sonic's, 25th anniversary now?
Oh no, that was 25th.
30th. Are we getting up on 30th?
25th was 2011.
That's right. Coming up on his 30th. Yeah, they're not gonna yank that away right now. They're not. I don't see them doing that unless, of course, Archie wasn't paying the licensing fee, which I'm sure isn't that much. So does this mean that Archie Comics is in trouble? Well, let's take a look at Archie Comics for a second here. Archie Comics has a far more interesting history in the industry than most people realize. Archie Comics has been around since the Golden Age, since the earliest days of the comic book industry. In 1939, 1940, something like that. That was Archie #1. Pep Comics something or another was where he premiered. And then Archie #1, I think, was in 4, whatever. Point is, Golden Age. Archie goes back to the days of, as far back as Batman and Superman and Captain America, the Golden Age guys. Archie went on for a very long time, and people forget how culturally relevant Archie was for a very long time. And also how not kid material Archie was for a very long time. That was never really raunchy, but Archie was often very dirty in a wink and a nod kind of way. And if you actually were to look on image boards, you'll find a lot of panels from 60s, 70s era Archie where it's like, wow, really? That was in an Archie comic? And I mean, you'll obviously find Photoshop panels, but I'm talking about real unaltered panels. There's like one panel I remember getting passed around all the time. I think Betty, the blonde girl, was like my own pet, and she's imagining herself walking Archie on a dog leash. And also, one of the main artists for Archie back in the day in the 60s did the Playboy cartoons for the longest time, I believe under a different pen name, but nonetheless. Archie got really sanitized in the 80s, in the height of the moral majority, satanic panic, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to that, it was never anything you'd be like really afraid to give a kid, but it was a lot of things that went over the kid's head. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Now, also to put in perspective how big of a company Archie is and how much success they've had. Now, yes, Archie has had cartoons over the years, but also Archie owns another thing people forget. Archie owns Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which certainly, if you're my age, you'll remember had a very successful live-action show and animated series of roughly the same time in the late 90s, early 2000s, which you have to imagine made them a buttload of money. Archie will also, this year, is doing a live-action show on the CW called Riverdale, which has this weird, like, I know what you did last summer murder mystery shit going on in the commercials for it. I don't know what's going on with that. It is CW'd up to the hilt. Let's put it that way. It's barely recognizable as an Archie fucking show. But nonetheless, it is an Archie show. All right. Nonetheless, Archie has gotten some money for this damn thing. And Archie has done a lot of headline grabbing shit in recent years that I have to imagine has at least boosted sales somewhat. They introduced a gay character, unfortunately, because of fucking course. They did a lot of crossover stunts recently. In the 90s, Archie did a crossover with the Punisher, which was just a goofy joke. But recently, they've done crossovers with properties like Predator and Sharknado, like joke crossovers that do not shy away from violence and gore while still being in a cartoony Archie style. They did stunts where, like, Archie got married and, like, possible futures and shit. They have an ongoing series called Afterlife of Archie, which is a continuity in which the Archie Riverdale gang exists in the zombie apocalypse. And their main Archie series, they've recently rebooted to critical fanfare. I'm not sure what the sales actually are, but, I mean, the first Archie #1 in, like, 70 damn years. And they've done it in a much more serious teen drama style, which, again, has been critically acclaimed, but I haven't followed it myself. Point is, Archie has a much more interesting history and place in the industry than most people are willing to admit. Most people imagine it's merely that thing that gets sold at the grocery stores. But there is much more to it than that. Now, rambling on about this, hopefully that didn't chase away a bunch of viewers. Hopefully you all found that interesting. Archie has had this Sonic comic for many, many years. And back in 2011, they recently started a Mega Man comic, which was superb. One of the best comics on the shelf. I absolutely adored it. The Mega Man comic had not one, but two big crossover events with the Sonic the Hedgehog comics. And what's interesting is right after that crossover event, there was a couple issues, and then they put Mega Man on hiatus, as they said. This was over a year ago now, I believe. And that was the end of it. Yeah, it's on hiatus, but it'll come back. And it never came back. And indeed, the trade paperbacks reprinting it, they never put out the trade paperback of Volume 9, which was a Mega Man X storyline. It was listed on Amazon for a little while. Now it's not even listed on Amazon. So something's going on there. And I don't quite know what. It makes me wonder if there's some manner of money problems there or something, why would you not stand behind, your biggest success story in decades that you have as a company have had? It's really weird. And as I said before, I think there's real problems in the comic book industry right now. I see a crash coming. I really do. And in large part, it's driven by all the social justice shit. Marvel comics are all but unreadable right now because of all this social justice faggotry in it. And I say that as a man who was a huge Marvel Comics fan for many, many years. Before the travesty of the One More Day story back in 2008, Spider-Man was my favorite fictional thing in the fucking world. That was my favorite fictional thing, was Spider-Man. I loved it. I love those comics. And yeah, that storyline put a real stain on the franchise. I'm not sure will ever be cleaned off. But the point is, I still loved Marvel for the longest time. And then these last few years, I can't. They're garbage. They're just absolute garbage. I mean, thank God the movies are still good, but who knows how long till they get paused in an egg hole too. And that's already kind of starting with the cast of Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
Nice little diversity cast there. Pastor Tom wants to jump in the stream, and it sounds like so does John Steele, so I can bring them in. But yeah, it's really interesting. And I'm going to be bringing, hopefully this coming week, my buddy who, he has his finger on the pulse of the comic book industry too, because he sells them. It'll be an interesting talk about where exactly this is headed. I think it's a shame if Sonic is canceled.
Well, I don't know much about comics, but I do know a lot about Sonic the Hedgehog, and one of the big problems with that franchise is its utter lack of consistency, which the comic sidesteps because it is a continuity. It's a single continuity going through it. Now, they did have reboots, but they were sort of soft reboots where they were still aware of the way things used to be and that kind of thing. And sort of by necessity of being a continuous series rather than a bunch of separate games, the writers of the comics for Sonic had to find a way to make everything interconnected, whereas before in the games, everything is all disconnected and random and just whatever the designers for each game thought were cool, because Lord knows the hiring and firing process at Sonic Team is a revolving door. And so it's just all these different teams, and you never know what they're going to, do. But the guys at the comic sort of had to stitch all this stuff together into a patchwork. But and that kind of works though, because what are comic books if not a patchwork of different genres and characters?
Oh yeah, especially superhero comics are, a incredible amalgam of so many different genres. But it's amazing at how well they took elements from the games that didn't even fit with their original vision and just created an even deeper lore. As time goes on and they'd have to add more things into it, deepest lore. But shortly before the Mega Man Sonic crossover, Archie put out a Sonic comic encyclopedia, which I picked up just to catch myself up on things, because I hadn't really read much since I was a kid, and I was amazed at how and then when I would go back and read some of those stories that I had missed, it didn't shy away from things, even dark themes. I mean, not Shadow the Hedgehog edgelord dark, but just the way classic Disney movies would have, and all. We didn't shy away from Bambi's mom dying, or or death or whatever. And these, what I mean? There was some stuff in there where I was like, wow, that's heavy stuff for a kid's comic, but there it was nonetheless. It was incredibly well written. I think it would be a damn shame if the comic book world lost it. And I think it would be a shame for the franchise as a whole, because it's frankly, until such time as Sonic Mania is available, it's the best thing this franchise has done in a couple decades. So yeah, it would be a damn shame if they lost it. Let's see. Pastor Tom wants to hop in, and I think John Steele said he wanted to hop in. He was apparently at the Milo demonstration. in Seattle. So we'll get his
Milo
thing.
demonstration. I didn't hear about this.
I don't know. Apparently, some leftists were mad that Milo exists, or something. I don't know. You know, leftists are never quite sure what they're mad about.
Well, I mean, a lot of people were saying that the gay people who voted for Trump are not gay enough,
They're not
and
gay enough.
the trannies who voted for Trump are not tranny enough. So
Kind of like how the blacks aren't black enough.
yeah, it's fucking stupid.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Richard Spencer voted for Trump, and I think he's pretty gay. Hi-yo.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, John, how's it going?
Hey, good guys. What I wanted to talk about is I'm surprised you didn't hear about this. Milo Yiannopoulos spoke at the University of Washington the other day, and there was a shooting.
Oh, I think
geez.
I did hear a little bit about that. It's just so much has been going on, I kind of forgot about it.
Yes, a man was shot in the gut. No, he's last I heard he's alive. He was taken to
Yeah, I think I heard he was Antifa and he was shot by another Antifa or something.
Well, it's really vague right now. I
And
believe
you thought TRS was bad at watching their fire.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was pretty bad. I was speaking to a female friend of mine who was going to the Mile event. They had to stop it. They could the police in Seattle are so paused in the neg hole that they refused to clamp down on the anti-Trump or anti-Milo protesters, and
Wow.
they allowed them to kind of rush the building or the hall where it was being held at the University of Washington campus and block the entrances. And numerous fights broke out between the people who were there to see Milo and or support him and all the anti-fags that were there. And lots of fights broke out, and the police were pretty much paused and didn't do anything.
When you're too paused to defend a gay man.
And Milo, there's actually a video clip of Milo finding out that this guy was shot during the conference. You can find it on. Oh God, it was posted on my Twitter feed. Now, the guy who did the shooting actually turned himself in and claimed self-defense.
Wow.
Huh.
Well, I heard a little bit about that, but it just,
Now, my guess is the person that did the shooting was one of these Antifa guys, because damn well if it was a Milo guy, they would be saying, Nazi shoots innocent protester,
gay Nazi shoots man.
But no, it was really bad here in Seattle. It was really bad, and I know you guys are East Coast people for the most part, except for Luke. But Portland also was a total shit show. I don't know how much of that you've seen. Major riots down there. All these people just going completely apeshit. They temporarily shut the city down. The bus service was suspended down there. Through the downtown corridor, because like I said, once again, pause police allowed them to just take over.
Ridiculous.
So yeah, I'm kind of surprised you guys didn't. I don't know. See, there's lots of people
Holy
nowadays.
Shit, that is a lot of people.
With the periscopes and everything that's streaming this stuff. I was watching it. It was pretty bad. I'm sorry, Anto. What?
That's a minor chimp out. At least a cat too.
It's a cat.
Yeah, everything is in meteorological terms with the undertow.
We're getting chip out readings that shouldn't even be possible.
And also this guy that punched Spencer. What the fuck?
I know, right? Gross, isn't it?
Undertow, how come you haven't slit your wrist after viewing that? Because I almost did. And I'm not even a Christian. How are you still sane? I want to know what keeps you holding it together. I'm ready to fucking jump off a bridge.
You know,
Listen,
when you
I picked the worst moments to come in. I like popped into the
may,
stream, see what was going on. That was y'all were talking about that. I'm like,
this
what?
may be hard to believe, but I've seen worse.
you know, when you look at an Antifa and you're just like, oh, just go eat shit.
Careful what you wish
Tom,
for.
Pastor Tom, please say a prayer for my sanity. I'm not kidding. I'm sincerely
No, I
saying.
pray for all of our sanities on a regular basis.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you.
Oh, I need some Jesus healing right now, man. I'm not kidding.
As I said, my favorite picture in that collage is the one where he's wearing the dog collar and the leash, because you could tell like that doesn't do anything for him anymore. Like just to look at his face, like this just gets me to normal.
Oh God!
Too far gone.
I don't know about you guys, but I got a hankering for a nice little crusade or two.
Well, I think the phrase "given over" comes to mind.
Yeah.
I mean, this is worse than than any part of Revelations I read. I mean, the stuff that's going on now.
Well, that's because Revelation was just kind of being broad. It's going to get much worse.
Yeah. I think the angel actually said to John that there will be shit-eating cucks, but John just didn't buy that. So he was like, "I'm not writing that."
Well, he had never heard those words before, so he was like,
"Yeah." He's like, "What? Nah."
He says that's Greek to me.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm gonna leave that part out. People don't need to hear that."
So you guys you're really all keeping your sanity. I'm impressed.
Once again, I've seen worse.
Well, how can I not keep my sanity? Because I mean, I just saw the adults are in charge again. I just got this feeling over me, like, yeah, we're gonna take care of this crap. You know, we're gonna
Interesting
sort this
choice
out.
of words.
Well, the news.
I'll say if y'all won't, he will.
He'll take care of that crap, all right.
But just so wonderfully, perfectly ironic, though, like the person who punches Richard Spencer in the face is, well, the worst kind of liberal loser we can imagine.
Well, again, he has no inhibitions.
Again, though, I would like to ask Spencer, though, if shit-eating cuckoldry is the last stand of implicit white identity.
Well, did he smile at all? Can anyone tell anything about the type of grin that he had?
God.
I don't think I want to see any of that guy's teeth.
Funnier that a pastor made that joke.
You don't laugh, you'll cry.
Oh man. Wow.
But you guys are still convinced there is a God, though, right?
Oh yeah.
When you stare into the abyss, you know there is. When you see hell, you know there must be a heaven.
All of those pictures.
Oh, Commonfield had a tweet where he was all like, "So let me get this straight: a shit-eating cuckold beat up a fag."
Anyway, I'm assuming where you guys were. Well, I know where Bechtloff is. They don't tolerate violence. Those violent people, they just shoot them. Where the rest of you guys were, was there any protests? Like none of you guys live in really big cities like I do, right?
No, not really.
No.
Yeah, there was supposedly a gathering in Los Angeles, which I couldn't go to, but I haven't heard any like disasters.
There's literally a tobacco field in my backyard, so you know.
I like this picture, by the way.
Yeah, I sent that.
Yeah, I love it. The sniper from Team Fortress 2 is our Secretary of Defense.
I'm so confident especially after that inaugural speech. I'm just so confident. And then today, when the press secretary called the press in to say you're bad, it should feel bad. You know, see you Monday.
Oh, I love the way he walked off right after he just told them that.
Yeah, he's like, no questions. See you Monday. I'm just so confident that we're going to sort some things out here. Like the adults are in charge again. I mean, there's a reason I felt like I could just ramble on about Archie comics and Sonic for a while because, hey, the rest of that, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right because Trump is a smart guy. He played the media like a fucking fiddle,
like a damn fiddle.
So he owned them. Let's see if he continues to. I mean, there was all these protests around today where you had. I didn't realize there was this many fat lesbians on the.
But here's the thing, though. Now once Sessions is in there, maybe some of these guys are going to get in the wood shampoo a little bit, because I'm a big fan of a right to protest. But the right to protest means you walk around with a sign and you chant things. It doesn't mean you burn down the CVS and punch a gay guy named Richard Spencer in the face. That's not the right to protest, all right?
Yeah.
No, if you want to revolt against the government, declare open warfare against the government, and then, okay. I mean, don't sit here and pretend like you're a part of this nation when you're trying to burn it down.
Actually, that was something I said years ago when these chimpanzees first started. I was like, I could respect it if they were attacking the police station. I mean, obviously, I necessarily wouldn't agree with it, but I could at least respect them on some level. Okay, we're mad at the cops, attack the cops. All right,
yeah,
that logic is flowing.
At least then they're coming out and saying, hey, we're revolting.
Yeah, we're mad at the cops, so we're going to go attack the cops. But see, the problem is that takes some balls. It's so much easier to just burn down the CVS. But you know what? The CVS didn't shoot that good boy who didn't do nothing. The cops did. All right? So if you're going to be mad at somebody, be mad at the cops. See, these guys, they're pussies, ultimately. And that's why when you come at them with the least bit of resistance, they're going to fold. As soon as Sessions starts deciding that cops can, as soon as we get an atmosphere where cops can just give these idiots the wood shampoo, this stuff's going to calm right down.
I hope to God he does, and does it quickly.
Because again, don't give me
time. It'll become necessary for them to get a job, and then they won't have time for this.
Like I said, don't give me I have a right to protest crap. Because, yeah, you sure do. But that means you wave a sign and you chant things. All right? What you're doing isn't protesting. It's rioting.
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone think it was ironic that they smashed the windows of a Starbucks? I mean, where are they going to get?
No, you gotta understand.
Where are they going to get their soy lattes now?
It's the same reason that the didn't do smash the windows of the sneaker store so they could take all. They're probably walking out with bags of coffee grounds.
yeah, the soy milk. They have to stock up on that.
Oh, it was. I listened to that speech, and like I said, just about every note of it, I was like, yes, that is exactly what we need to hear. That's exactly what needs said.
Mm-hmm.
I did something interesting during his speeches. I turned the volume down and I played the scene from Bane. Someone should make a video of that.
Well, somebody already did. Like Reason TV did something where they took parts of Trump's speech and put it over a Bane scene. And I'm like, I realize that these libertarians are trying to make fun of him, but it just makes me like him more.
Yeah, exactly. This is not the time for fear. That will come later.
That comes later.
Yeah, I
gotta tell you, I'm really outmanned. Where I live, but I'm not outgunned.
That's good.
But yeah, it I mean, I had a smile on my face all day at work Friday. It's funny too. I actually tuned into the.
Tell the truth, Bechtloff. You were crying a little bit, tears of joy,
a little. Yeah. But I tuned into the InfoWars stuff. Right, I had a moment of panic there for a second. I tuned in the InfoWars feed. And okay, so they're swearing in. They swear in Mike Pence, and then they start swearing in Trump, and the feed gives out. And I go on the site, something like technical difficulties, and for a brief moment, I had like this. I had like no, right? And then I like quickly go over to YouTube and brought up a feed of it, and you know, and I was like, for a brief second, I'm like, what is DC a smoking crater now? What the fuck? What just happened? You know, like for a brief second, I'm like, no, it couldn't.
They couldn't even.
Yeah.
Well, you want to see a real revolution? Try to assassinate Trump and see what happens.
Oh, good
Yeah.
Lord.
No, they won't touch Trump now because they know they'll end up with Pence.
Pence will walk out there truly like the meme, lightning coming out of his eyes. Repent.
Did you see that little kid who started a fire at the protest being interviewed? How proud he was that he lit the fire. I mean,
Yes.
Well, he's been told all his life that that's the most honorable, nice, good thing to do. To
I don't know
stomp
why.
and scream and start fires and riot and when you don't get your way.
There's this one cartoon on YouTube somebody made of like Animal Crossing where like Isabel turns the village into a communist dystopia.
Yes.
And that was
And there's this
fantastic.
scene where the little kid animal is saying to the mayor, like, I lit my torch all by myself. I made a big boy fire. And like that's all I could think of when this kid was talking. I'm like, you sure did. You made a big boy fire.
It's weird though. When I Google Trump's inauguration, the first thing I get are a bunch of anti-Trump cartoons, like this, like one where Trump has his hand in the air, like Sieg Heil.
Oh wow!
Well, did you
Trump
hear?
based his head onto
Trump
Richard
is a
Spencer.
Nazi. You stayed up all night to come up with it.
Yeah,
But it
how
was
original.
worth it.
How fucking
He's
original.
never heard that before.
Hair. which they
Okay,
make fun of.
the hair raising its hand is actually kind of funny.
Sure.
I kind of like that, but again, it just makes me like him more.
And this one
I don't know. If it's... Get.
And yeah, this one I don't get.
What's it say?
Well, Trump put his hand on the Bible with the judge. He says you're fired.
Well, okay.
I guess he's firing the judge.
Get it? That's a meme. That's
Okay,
something that he said.
I saw a picture under it where like there was like a brick under the Bible, and I don't know if this is photoshopped or whether they do this all the time as sturdy it or something. I don't know what was going on with it, but somebody said he swore an oath on the Bible and the first brick of the wall. I'm like, I kind of hope that's real. I kind of hope he really did that.
Actually, he used two Bibles. He used his family's Bible and was it the Jefferson Bible? He swore on the second two Bibles when he was sworn in. He wanted to use his family Bible and the some of the guys will have to look this up, which was the other one. I'm not sure. I think it was,
You know, it's funny. I was listening to some other reactions of it. And, you know, I mean, there's the typical reactions from the left-wing media. Oh, it was so scary. And yes, of course, now is not the time for fear. But the one that kind of pissed me off, and it shouldn't because I knew they would take this position. I listened to the Breakpoint guys this weekend. John Cuckstreet and the other guy he has on this show. The weekend show's like a half an hour. And at one point, and they were trying to be moderate, like, oh, well, people are so excited or so upset, and it's just, you know, it's just politics. Well, it's not just politics this time, guys. But, you know, he said something like, yeah, and I pray for our president. I certainly hope he's a better president than he was a person. And I sat back for a second. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. Okay? Because I don't remember you guys saying that Barack Obama was a bad person. I don't remember you guys saying that George W. Bush was a bad person. Just to use the last two guys. And both of them are scumbags. The one much more than the other. But both of them are trash, all right? And in a just country, both of them would be sitting in federal prison right now, if not in front of a goddamn firing squad. So don't tell me that Trump is a bad person. Because last I checked, Trump is a man who doesn't drink and doesn't smoke, lives an incredibly clean and disciplined life, and has somehow, despite living a life of incredible opulence and wealth, managed to raise several well-adjusted, disciplined children who themselves now are off having their own families. That is not the easiest thing to do when you're incredibly wealthy. I would like to point that out, all right? It would be very easy for those kids to be nothing but train wrecks, nothing but sociopaths. And by all accounts, they're not. Okay, yeah, Trump got divorced. yeah, he shouldn't have done that, but him and half the damn country. All right. Trump likes vagina. I realize that triggers the hell out of John Stone's face. But yes, Trump is a fan of vagina. I realize that's upsetting to you, John, but it is what it is. These guys think Trump isn't a good person because Trump is a man.
Well, they've been trained their entire lives that
I
everything
think that being a man is wrong. To think that masculinity, yes, Trump is kind of boorish. Trump is kind of at times rude. But as Undertow so brilliantly said, and I love this quote, these people, the John Stone Streets of the world, they confuse manners with morality. Trump is, by all accounts, a pretty damn moral person.
Yes.
Yes, he's a flawed man, certainly. But
Who isn't?
He frankly seems to have his shit far more together than I do. I'll give him that. And I'm not just talking about that he's wealthy. All right.
No, I think the point that you talked about his children, that is so true because it's not. I mean, he has several kids, and all of them have their shit together.
Yeah, especially Barron. I mean, he's the mastermind behind everything.
And you're right. I mean, wasn't one of Obama's kids caught like sucking on a bong at a party?
Oh yeah, and Bush's kids were famously whoring about. No, okay, there were a couple of girls in college. All right, fine, but you don't hear any of those stories about Trump's kids.
It's the uneven standard.
I mean, the only one you hear even vague rumors about is that maybe Tiffany's had a bit of a wild past. And
Yeah, that's just your fantasy, Bechtloff.
Yeah, that's just that's just my fan fiction, but it's out there. Is the point? But you don't hear any of this shit. These kids got their stuff together. They got their shit together, and this guy, well, he's a bad person. John Stone Street actually at one point said Trump, that the Trump tapes, the Pussygate, that Trump was talking about sexual assault. I got news for you, John. I got news for you, John. In the tapes, he clearly says, "And they let me." Right there, that implies consent, doesn't it, genius? Last I checked, it's essentially if a really hot chick said, "I am so attractive, I could go up to any dude and just grab his dick and he'd love it." She's obviously not saying you should just go around grabbing people's dicks. She's bragging about how attractive she is. That's all Trump was doing. But John is either too cucked or too autistic or both to understand that. Or he was flat out being dishonest, because it would not be the first time that John Stone Street has flat out been utterly dishonest about, has distorted what Trump said to a point that almost has to be dishonesty. Like at one point, John Stone Street was out there saying, Trump said the 14th Amendment was unconstitutional. No, dumbass, that's not what he said. What he said was that our current interpretation of it, that it grants birthright citizenship, is not what it was intended to do. Now, you may agree.
It was intended to protect the children of freed slaves. That was
you may agree or disagree with that interpretation, but I would like to point out that the man who wrote it agrees with Trump.
Well, and that's what should matter, is the author's intention.
But no, he didn't say the 14th Amendment was unconstitutional. No, what he said was our current interpretations of it are wrong. And you could say, well, what does Trump plan to do about that? I don't know. Maybe fill the definitely one, most likely 2 or 3 Supreme Court justice seats he'll have to fill.
And may I add that it is literally impossible for an amendment to the Constitution to be unconstitutional.
Yes, and Trump never said that. I mean, obviously, it's ridiculous on its face value. But John Stone Street is either dense or a liar. There's only two
these are the same kind of things to where people will twist anything that he says. Just because he doesn't want murderers, thieves, and rapists from other countries coming in here and having an open door in here, that turns into Trump doesn't want any Hispanics at all in the nation ever.
Yes.
And not to mention all the bad news surrounding Trump. That's going to haunt us forever, because just the other day I was talking with a coworker, and he says he doesn't like Trump because he said all Latinos are rapists.
Which again, never said.
Well, I mean, somebody's doing the raping.
Yeah. Who's doing the raping? You know,
It's Donald
I mean,
Trump. He bragged about it.
Yeah.
He's normalized
Oh,
it now.
yeah.
That
just
okay.
grabbing
Yeah.
the pussies.
He must be so tired to commit all those rapes, man. That's like millions of rapes.
You know, and again, what I'm talking about, this site I'm talking about, this is from a supposedly conservative site, and that's what's so depressing about it. These are from the supposedly biblical site, you know, and apparently truth doesn't matter to them, and that's depressing. You know, it really is.
Well, how much has the evangelicals or Christians come around to Trump now? That you know, do you think having Pence on the ticket that was calculated to do that?
Well, I think.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
Most of them, except for the big
the
charlatans.
leaders
at the top.
don't really like him. The congregation, the members, the lay people, they like Trump. So there's a bit of a disconnect between the leadership within. Of course, again, it's hard to define leadership within evangelicals, but the big name pastors don't really seem to like Trump versus the lay people of many churches do seem to be on board.
And I really think that the reason they don't like him is simply, as I said before, the manners versus morality thing. They've lost the ability to distinguish between the two. Whereas, you know, your lay people who have real jobs and have actually heard locker room talk before and didn't live sheltered lives where, you know, they went, you know, they were a good little boy who always did what mommy told him, and then they went to seminary and all that stuff. You know, the lay people, they understand the real world.
Present company excluded.
Yeah, present company excluded.
No, I'm just messing.
But they understand the real world, you know, whereas some of these, and especially with some of these big name pastors, they haven't, at the very least in a very long time, they haven't been pastors of small churches where they've had to have one-on-one interaction with their congregation. Whereas one of my favorite pastors, Steve Brown, says, you know, people look at me like I'm a pastor, like I'm sheltered. No. I have buried babies and cleaned up suicides. You have no idea what I've dealt with. But when you're the head of a mega church and you're standing in front of a football stadium worth of people each week, you're not dealing with that stuff.
Wait, are you saying
they're dealing with that crap?
Joel Osteen is not in touch with the common man?
Yeah. But the
he's not ahead of any. I mean, he would not be what I would call a big name in evangelical. Of course, it's hard to define what evangelical is, but you know,
you're John Stone Streets, even your Eric Metaxas. These guys they have no idea what the real world is. All right.
Now, I will say though, you know, Michael Brown, the guy that I had on my show at one point, he was very critical of Trump, but then when Trump did become the nominee, he did really turn around, and he has, like I said, really offered a lot of support for Trump.
Here's another thing, and I've mentioned this on this channel before, and I'll mention it again because it's worth seeing. I have noticed for many years a disconnect between the, let's call them leadership, but really they're just who represents.
The phrase is the priestly class.
Yeah, it's really just who represents evangelicalism on the national stage, right? There's a disconnect between them and the sort of, you know, the lay people, the grassroots, as it were. And I noticed back in the 2012 election cycle, in that halcyon days of yore, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, the Values Voters Summit had a big old straw poll where they picked which Republican nominee they wanted, and Ron Paul won. And you know who came in second? You might think it would be like Rick Santorum or something. No, it was actually Herman Cain, who, if you remember, basically ran as Ron Paul Light, or if you want to make the racial joke, Ron Paul Dark. But then there was this kind of get together of a bunch of evangelical leaders, your James Dobsons and your, the Family Research Council guys and those sort of guys. And they had their own straw poll. And Ron Paul wasn't anywhere in, he didn't even register in the top 5. And it was obviously Rick Santorum that was their top pick. So I remember thinking back then, I'm like, I see a disconnect between the conservative Protestant Christianity in America at the base level and what represents us on the national stage. And it's something that I'd noticed for a while because I didn't grow up in the church. When I was a little kid, I spent my Sunday mornings watching Ren and Stimpy. All right. So there was something of a culture shock as a young adult getting into the church, you know. Even just talking to people my age, we weren't nostalgic about the same things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They watched Veggie Tales or whatever Christian kids watched. I don't know. But there was a bit of a culture shock, but I was very surprised at how there wasn't as much of a culture shock as I thought there would be. And
well, I mean, I think
because they just weren't quite like the pearl clutchers I had seen on the world stage for the longest time. And I mean, I was pleasantly surprised with that, you know. But that's when I began to notice, like, this isn't what I was led to believe it was, you know, because I mean, I came into the church despite my impression of Christians, all right, in many regards. And when I got into church, I was like, this isn't what I thought it was. It pleasantly surprised in that regard.
Yeah, well, I think there's the part of the reason is a lot of these individuals, they seem to, you know, for lack of a better word, desire the approval of many individuals on the left. And, you know, they're never going to get it because of just the fundamental differences, but it's sort of like they have to say things because they think that that's what they're going to appeal to. Like I've seen articles from, you know, pretty much conservative Christian sites saying things like, you know, toxic masculinity and all of this kind of stuff. And, you know, they talked about the fake news thing and they're hopping right on board with these liberal narratives. And it's like, you know, you guys are just, you don't get it. The liberals are in full retreat, basically. I mean, they're trying as hard as they can to stay relevant. No one's listening anymore. Why are you guys, you know, going this way? Why are you talking about toxic masculinity and using the same terminology that people are rejecting?
I think part of it is just the nature of tradcons, the nature of that type of people, for better or worse, is that they have a hard time adapting to a changing dynamic. So they're just kind of behind the times on it. You know, they're almost always operating from a perspective of at least 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because that's how long it takes it to seep into them.
Well, I want to add to that, though, and this is just a theory because I don't know anywhere near as much about the church as you guys do, but maybe it's because that the priestly class, that they're like in a position of power, and people in power generally like the status quo.
There's definitely something to that. You know, I mean, it's kind of why if you were a conspiracy theorist or even just applying that basic theory that, you know, they like the status quo, it's kind of why so many quote unquote right-wing political leaders always seem to be really bad at focusing on the root cause or just picking which battles, you know what I mean? They always
I
seem
think it's
to
also
focus
stems from wanting a seat at the table too.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
You know, they want to sit with the cool kids. What they don't understand is the cool kids suck. But yeah, it's
now the cool kids all have blue hair and problem glasses.
yeah. How old am I? I'm old enough to remember where, you know, odd colors hair on a girl meant she was quirky and fun. Now it means she's a, you know, a horrible gender studies man-hating feminist. Back in my
or just a communist.
Yeah, or a communist. But back in my day, like blue or pink hair on a girl meant, oh man, she's probably a blast. But yeah.
Oh, by the way, for those listening, because you were losing listeners there when you're going on about Archie, but now you're back up in the mid 80s. Hey guys, click the like button.
Yep.
I only got click the like button right on.
Yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
Kick you.
Yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. What's up?
Show Bechtloff some love.
I need you to
Look at a picture of a literally shit-eating cuck. Need some love.
That's when you have the most viewers.
Oh yeah. You gotta give.
See,
the
it just
what
jumped
they
up
want.
now.
Gotta give the people what they want.
Oh, God.
But yeah, and you know, I mean, you talk about like or toxic masculinity. I was shocked a couple years ago, you know, at how often I would see these Christian sites sound like feminists. You know, I like pathetically so, you know. I remember like a video where they talked about, and of course, this is how laughable trad cons can be sometimes. But they talked about this new phenomenon of a bunch of men in their 30s or older would head down to, spring break areas where the college girls were, and, with wads of cash and try and be a sugar daddy, right? Apparently this was a new phenomenon in their mind.
I've been doing that shit for 10 years.
Yeah, oh, wow. Really? Girls like money? Wow, how about that?
Who'd have thought?
Shock. Yeah, in a bit of breaking news here. But anyways, the way they portrayed this story was that these evil men were going down there and victimizing these poor delicate flowers. And I'm like, come on, man. Look, okay, he's using her for sex, but guess what? She's using him for status and money. All right, I'm not saying it's right, but everybody knows what they're getting into here, okay? And it also had this theme of like just looking down on men dating younger in general. And I'm like, sorry, because at the time I was actually dating.
Boaz.
Yeah, at the time I was actually dating a girl that was considerably younger than me, and I was like, yeah, sorry, I'm doing the thing that human beings have done for most of our existence.
Well, this kind of tangentially touches on the idea of the way a lot of these churches, and we talked about this many months ago, about how they give a free pass to all these single mothers. Most, maybe not Pastor Tom's church, but so many of these churches do. They totally embrace it.
Oh, they absolutely give a pass to single moms in a big way. And look, I've said this numerous times. I'm like, look, you want to rail against gay marriage, and you want to rail because gay guys might adopt kids, and yeah, I don't. That's not a good thing, because Lord knows half of them are going to molest these kids, and the other half, these kids are just going to grow up effed up because even if these gays are otherwise got their shit together, a kid needs a mother and a father, not two daddies.
Look what happened to Rosie
Absolutely. They need a mother and a father. So just having, if you can help it, having one. Now, again, for the single mom who's, the dad died or the dad left or something like that, that's a different situation.
That's my point.
Individuals who are intentionally single, who have no interest in that, or who leave because, they wanted to do eat, pray, love, or whatever that kind of stuff is, it's stupid. It's foolish, and it's hurting. It's selfish.
It drove me nuts, because it's like, okay, yeah, the gay guys shouldn't adopt kids, but gay guys are like 3% of the population, okay? We're looking at 40% illegitimacy rates here, all right? We need to be talking about the bigger problem, and so many of them just never would. And yeah, look,
although,
if your husband died or ran out on you... To be fair,
single mothers did not have, an organized, well-funded campaign going on either.
They did.
So, that's probably why they spend a little bit more time talking about gay marriage than single mothers.
Well, that's foolish, though. We're not focusing on a real problem here. And they kind of did. They had feminism, all right? They had this systematic campaign over the course of decades to absolve women of all responsibility for their action.
Too many in the church became egalitarians and stopped being complementarians.
And
I'm
look,
feeling that.
Single moms piss me off generally. And look, I know not all of them are bad. And certainly, look, if your husband ran out on you, or he died or whatever, I obviously don't throw stones at you for that. But it's the easiest thing in the world to avoid, first of all, okay? They sell condoms at the store. It's just so monstrously irresponsible to get in this position in the first place. But I don't understand how the church just, well, this is great. Yeah, those single moms are heroes. No. Stop that. Don't do that.
It's not only do they not point out that it's a bad thing, it's actually celebrated like it's a badge of honor almost.
Yeah.
Like how heroic you are, how brave you are.
Well,
now, I will say the one area, though, to where, the one thing that I will say in favor of this would be in the sense that, if a mother was going to have an abortion, then, and she chose to, rather than to have the kid, even if that meant she was going to be a single mother rather than having the abortion, then yes, I would sort of be more in favor of that. Both is a bad situation, but I would be more in favor of her not taking the life of her child and raising it as a single mother.
Last I checked,
I have a feeling
adoption is an option.
Yeah, but
and you know what? If you got a healthy white baby, that kid's going to be snatched up in no time.
Yes.
I know that's harsh to say, but that's the realities of it.
That's true, and you can give it up for adoption. And I mean, again, of course, I think ultimately it would be best for the kid if their own mother raised them. I mean, now
Well,
again,
I think adoption into a good home is better than a single
with the
mom
mother
situation.
and a father.
well, again,
With
I
a
think it
mother and
depends
a
on
father.
circumstances as well. What's the mother's circumstance versus what's the home that they're getting into circumstance. There's a lot of kids who can get into really horrible homes with
They
adoption as
can,
well.
but I mean, look, moms can look. A pregnant woman can take a lot of control over that if she just realizes she can, and she can see to it that kid's going to get in a good home. And yes, it's not always going to be better, but most of the time it is. And again, we're even starting from a premise where I'm kind of like, how did you get in this situation? Because they sell condoms at the store. All right. You could have just not screwed Mr. Bad Boy in the first place. You could have kept your legs together. But failing that, I mean, you couldn't have him finish on your tits or something. All right. Like it's pretty easy to avoid getting a woman pregnant. I mean, just yeah, okay. It's good that you didn't kill the kid, I guess, but still, like, why are we even in this situation?
Those are the options.
I have to praise
killing
that.
a kid or
Like, why are we in this situation where I got to praise that? All right.
yeah, it could have been worse. You could have killed somebody.
Yeah. I mean,
But again, that's a real. I mean, that's a real situation for a lot of people, though. I mean, that would be the option. Is again, yes, they could give it up for adoption and fine. That's a perfectly acceptable option. But for many of them, it's either raise it themselves or kill it.
you know what I think it is with a lot of these women, and this is something that it's probably happening even on a subconscious level. But I mean, first of all, human beings have a desire to breed. So a lot of these women subconsciously they just want to have a kid. And then also, I've seen this, and I'm not going to name names, but a single mom that I know through a friend, this kid became her identity when he was born, and everyone comes around her and helps her now and feels sorry for the situation she's in. And like, if you went on her Facebook page, her profile picture, last I saw at least, was a picture of this kid. Not her and the kid, was a picture of this kid. Now, your profile picture, that's supposed to represent you, all right? Whether or not it's a picture of you or it's something you're ironically or jokingly or whatever, is like, this is kind of me, or it's you, whatever. Point is, it symbolizes you. It's not supposed to be a picture of someone else you know. That's kind of creepy, all right? Like, this kid is her identity. I remember at one point where like she came out to visit my friend who she knows, and I was with him too, and she had gotten somebody to watch the kid, and she didn't know what to do with herself without having the kid. Like, it had completely become her identity. It was like I swear she purposely got herself in a bad situation to have that kind of identity, to have, that attention, to have that. And
I've seen that before.
And that's not something anybody would ever dare call them on. And yeah, I know, okay, you don't know what's going on in this person's mind. I know. These are obviously impressions I get. But I'm seeing these patterns a lot. And I'm seeing them occasionally up close and personally. And they're hard to ignore.
Yes, well, and I mean, again, and the family that have the kids just to get more money as well, which is also, that's also a very possibility that a lot of people, I think, know firsthand as well.
Well, yes, I've said before, I mean, look, the welfare state needs to be massively reduced. We ideally phased out of existence over time, and I think there are some ways to do that without collapse or blood in the street. And the family court needs to be really, the family court laws need to be reformed pretty massively, and those are some good ways to restore the family. And, if you can restore the family, a lot of these other social problems are going to work themselves out.
Agreed. Of course, again, actually having a definition of what a family is would also be a good starting point as well. We're not allowed to define what the family is anymore, apparently.
Well, even if you just put in some policies in place that let nature take its course, as it were, I mean, we all know what a family is in the back of our mind. We can't unknow it. No matter how much we scream and wave around signs and, my two mommies and all that crap, we know. So I would argue if you put some common sense policies in place that just sort of let nature take its course, I think so many social problems, if you just structure society in a sane way, you don't even necessarily need the jackboot. Things just work themselves out. The institution of the family exists before government. Okay. In our species' infancy, this was the earliest social cohesions we had. It's in us. It's there, and it's just begging to come back to the surface.
Yeah, but Bechtloff, the entire history of the left has been to attack the family on every level. I mean,
of course, because the left is nothing. Look, modern leftism is nothing more than a relentless march directly into Cthulhu's Maw. It's not a philosophy, and that's something else we on the right need to remember. And yes, we fight with each other over stuff, and sometimes big, sometimes not. But we need to remember when you're dealing with a hardcore leftist. I'm not talking about just somebody who believes it because he was told to. I'm talking about your hardcore true believers. You got to understand something with them. You're not dealing with a difference of opinion. All right, we're not arguing over, well, what is the balance between the individual and the community and society? What should the tax rates be? And what's our trade policy? And what side of the road are we going to drive on? We're not arguing over that crap, okay? This is strictly just life and death, all right? This is, we're talking about whether or not there's four lights here, people, all right? And it is a relentless march directly into Cthulhu's Maw. And that's why when you look at the left and you look at their inconsistencies, those inconsistencies are a lot less inconsistent when you realize they're picking whatever is most destructive in that moment, okay? That's why they love the fags until we're talking about Muslims. Then they love the Muslims. All right? Then we throw them fags right under the bus. Or in some cases, the very fast-moving truck that's heading into a crowd. Because we're going to pick the thing that's most destructive. Because they're just death-worshipping psychopaths at their core. As evidenced by the fact that we've had leaks recently where they're having blood rituals to Moloch.
Oh, God, yeah.
That's a good thing Heck was more powerful.
I mean, that's what these people are. And yeah, they've attacked the family relentlessly. But I mean, that's pushing water up a hill. All you got to do is kind of just stop doing that, and things sort of go back.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to sound cynical, but I mean, we live in a day and age where people are, denying basic biology.
I'm not saying they go back overnight, but they immediately start going back in that direction as soon as you stop pushing it towards Cthulhu's Maw. Things will immediately start going back in the other direction. Yeah, they're not going to go back overnight.
I should say in European societies, because I was just recently reading some stuff about, for instance, two of the examples they used were tribes in New Guinea and the Aboriginal tribes. Absolutely horrifying things such as the molestation of infants and torture and all things that I won't even talk about.
Yeah. You don't have to.
And this was the norm in these societies. Now, granted, these are societies that failed to succeed because they are still in 2017 tribal societies. But that shows that the family unit is not just the default; it is a piece of technology.
Well, it is
in a way. But I would
say, guided by a worldview. It is a reaction in large part. I mean, you mentioned Moloch. But what people actually used to do in sacrificing children to Moloch is they would light the statue up with fire, place the children in the statue's hands, and then play music or chant or do whatever to drown out the screams of the infants as they burned to death. That's how they used to sacrifice children to Moloch.
Yes,
But
and,
that's the thing,
and
I
the
don't think
family
we're-
unit is something that it's sacred. You know, it's not just something that's a good utility or whatever. And you are right. It is incredibly resilient, but you can't just assume that it's going to fall back into place, because there is some maintenance work that you need to do.
There is. I mean, there always is, and obviously we can all descend into absolute animal state. But
here's something in the chat. Richard Davis wrote. He says it's because the family is one of the main hurdles to Marxist utopia that leftists believe in. It's a religion. It's a religious conviction of the left.
Oh yeah, that's why they hate. Look, the family stands in the way of what they think is going to be. They think it's going to turn out like Star Trek. Okay, when they just get rid of all this stuff inhibiting us. Now, never mind that Russia tried that for 70 years and it didn't pan out. Never mind.
Well, they hate families the same reason why they hate globalism. I mean, not globalism, excuse me. They hate nationalism. When someone has a family, they're going to look after the interest of their family before the interest of another family, in the same way that a nation wants to look after its own interests as opposed to that. But if everyone's all just globbed in together, then they can control it much easier.
It's the same reason they hate just even the American concepts of, rugged individualism, of just, going out there and making something for yourself, because they don't want you self-sufficient.
Same thing for capitalism.
Yeah, they don't want you to be successful in and of yourself. They want you dependent on the state. They don't want you to be dependent on yourself. They don't want you to be dependent on your family. They don't want you to be dependent on your local community, on your church. They want you dependent on the state, period.
And they want you to look after the state's best interests, which they can define, not your own, not your family's, or from a globalist perspective, not your nation's. Their interest.
Hey, can you guys put up that sick tweet that I just Luke? Can you put that up and read it?
Oh,
Which one? Is that the one he has up now?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because I already vomited in my mouth. Basically, this woman saying she's going to get an abortion because she found out about being pregnant on Inauguration Day.
Well, in
She's
all
going
fairness,
to murder her child.
well, at least that means there won't be another one of her.
But just to add to the whole, we can't just expect things to go back to normal. I remember way back when Louis Black was in the heyday, when George W. Bush was still in presidency. Louis Black was having this rant about gay marriage and how it's not good enough for some countries that gay marriage is dismissed in the Bible. Some people need to have laws to put in place to make sure we don't forget who we're supposed to marry. And I think to myself, there are some people which the Bible is not good enough, which life is not good enough, which the Constitution is not good enough. We need to write this down somewhere so people don't forget.
Well, like I said, I really think it's not gonna take a tremendous amount of doings to get things back where they need to be, to get things at least moving in that direction. And things are moving in that direction now. Just what I saw Friday, I'm like, this shifts the culture right here. Having a president get up there and say some of the things he's just said, it shifts back to greatness, to reaching to the stars, to making a great country, to just having a man in charge again. The mere fact that we have a man, not a male, not little sissy black twink Barack Obama. No, we got a man in charge again. That alone restores some patriarchy to our culture.
Amen.
Like I said,
No, I'm with you, brother. I just think we
it's not
can't
that
rest on
things
our
will
laurels.
always fall into place. It's that things kind of want to fall into that place, and you got.
I hear you. I mean, you are right.
You
It is
gotta
kind
be
of like,
pretty
there's a
damn-
natural way of this. I mean, and that's, I think that's what we're agreeing on here, is the fact that, this is the natural way. But I think it is going to take a while, because people have been going against nature and, just the natural way of things for so long. I mean, this has just been an active suppression of it.
Oh, it'll take a while. I just think, things want to head in that direction for the most part. Things just kind of naturally want to go in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Certainly around here.
And it takes you got to be pretty damn primitive as a people, and I would argue spiritually oppressed by certain forces for things to not want to go in that direction.
Well, maybe it's just because of where I live. Like, I'm not as optimistic as you, but you ever come out and visit me here and you walk around for a little bit with me, you might become a little bit more pessimistic about things.
Well, trust me, John. You ever come out here and look, some of these are dumbass rednecks, but for the most part, it's God-fearing K-types out here. And
a big thing is, when you're in a city, you see a lot less of this, because a city sort of subsidizes the problems from not having a solid family unit. A city is much closer to the communist ideal because of just the concentration of bodies.
Yeah, and a lot of that's the point. A lot of the bad behavior is subsidized. I mean, look, if you just did some basic stuff like tried to phase out the welfare state, and even more basic, more immediate than that, reformed family court laws. Like, let's say you just did away with alimony, and maybe even reduced child support to, only in the case of divorces. If you're a single woman and you got knocked up, well, women have complete reproductive freedom in this country. The men really don't. So I guess you have complete reproductive responsibility, don't you? And that shit comes to an end overnight, because the sexual morals of a culture are basically whatever the women in that culture demand them to be. And that has been true since our earliest days. Women don't understand the power they have there. Men rule the world, but women basically determine which men rule the world. All right. So yeah, the sexual morals of the culture, they are what the women of the culture demand them to be. And that's not to necessarily absolve men of personal responsibility or anything like that. It's just a state of fact. It is what it is. Okay. I've often said, and I'll repeat it forever because it's just intrinsically true to our species, men build civilization, but we do so because women inspire us to. We do so because we do so for women primarily. Whether the MGTOWs, you're pussy worshiping. I know what to tell you, okay? It's the vessel of life, all right? If you're going to worship anything under the sun, I guess that's the thing to worship, all right?
When you put it like that.
But yeah, the sexual morals of a culture are only so high as the women demand them to be. And you stop absolving women of the responsibility of their poor choices, and lo and behold, they're going to make a lot less poor choices. And then on the welfare state, I really think the only way to truly phase out the welfare state, and look, Trump's going to create a lot of economic opportunity, and that's going to help. Certainly that's going to help. But the only way to really phase out the welfare state, because sadly right now you have people who have been raised generations on this. They're living in the mouse utopia world. They don't know anything else, and there's just no other real way, short of collapse or blood in the street, than frankly making receiving welfare contingent upon contraception use, if not sterilization. And I know, it sounds so terrible. Well, look, I think as things continue to move right, in the foreseeable future, you might be able to get stuff like that passed, because, you can easily get on the conservatives who are serious about fixing a problem. Yeah, a lot of the special snowflake evangelicals are going to cry a tear about, every life is sacred or whatever. even though we're not even talking about abortions. We're just talking about birth control. And some of the Catholic morons will cry a tear over it, whatever. But the actual conservatives who can do math and realize what the problem is, they'll get on board. And you might even be able to get a few liberals who are very environmentally conscious on board if you sell it to them as some, zero population growth Captain Planet horse shit. All right. And then boom, you solve the problem. Where look, if you're receiving welfare, you need to use contraception. Oh, well, I had an accident, because apparently that's an accident. I don't understand how that happens, but all right. Okay, and I want to stay on welfare. Fine, you and your kid can stay on welfare when you submit to sterilization. And don't give me any crap about how this infringes on rights. I've heard evangelicals give me this crap. That infringes on people's bullshit. You ain't got a right to my goddamn tax dollars, all right? You don't want the money, or you don't want the terms, don't take the money, all right? Caesar's coin always comes with strings, my dear.
I like that phrase.
And you know what? That'd solve it in a generation or two. Because you can't have a welfare state. Look, I know a lot of the 1488ers seem to think white people can make socialism work, which is essentially like saying white people can make 2 and 2 equal 5. But look, there's basic mathematical problems that, as Margaret Thatcher put it, you always eventually run out of other people's money. But even beyond that, there's just a spiritual problem. Free resources corrupt people generally. They just do, all right? The Mouse Utopia experiment is so amazing, because if you've never heard of this experiment, this researcher, and he's repeated it several times.
His name was Calhoun.
Thank you. He built this utopia for mice where they had the little compartments, they had endless supplies of food and water, they could run and play and be free, and it was a Garden of Eden for these little critters. All right. Now, you would think, and by the way, I always like to throw this up too against the fedora atheists who think we're nothing but biological machines. If those little critters were nothing more than biological machines, and you would think what would happen is their population would just expand until they reach the exhaustion point of their resources, at which point the population would either plateau or drop, right? You would think. But no, what actually happens is their population gets about halfway to the point of exhausting their resources, and then it just sort of breaks their spirits. They spiritually die. They have no point to their existence anymore. They just go insane. They eat each other. They sit in the corner and just stare at the wall. They have no reason to live anymore. Their little spirits die.
They start to engage in homosexuality.
Homosexuality.
No, they do.
That's
not a joke, Luke.
That's not a joke.
Mice, I'm not making that shit up. These are some of the symptoms that happened in this experiment. He repeated the same experiment with rats as well. They start to engage in homosexuality. The mothers stop looking after their young. They kind of just have them and just kind of, a lot of times they don't even
nurse them. And that's if they bother to have them. Sometimes they just don't. Yeah. Not only do they engage in homosexuality, large numbers of them just lose their sex drives and they just eat and get fat and sit in the corner. It's unreal. They just stop being. They die spiritually. There's no other way to put it.
Well, their life force seems to be removed in the experiment, and this experiment has been repeated. It's not like a one-off.
And that is what welfare. That is what free resources. That is what socialism does to human beings. Does to apparently any animal, apparently any creature on God's green earth. It kills our spirits. So, look, even if we, the numbers aside, this welfare state needs to be done away with. So, yeah, all these 1488ers that think, well, we can make socialism work. No, you can't.
Well, in fairness, I don't think 1488ers go around talking too much about making socialism work all that much.
Some of them do. No, obviously a lot. All of them don't. But there are some of them that, because as with any movement, there's a lot of neats that have latched onto it that this is just the best they can come up with for identity because they're unfuckable, unemployable losers who are eating chicken tendies in the basement. And I'm not saying the majority, but sometimes the loudest. And that's true of any movement. I mean, you've been around in any kind of, movement, particularly one that has an online presence. You'll see that. I mean, it is what it is. Sadly, it is what it is. There's people who latch onto it not because they think this is something that needs to be done, but because they're just desperate for identity. They're just desperate for purpose, for
value
agency.
being perceived or real will always attract counterfeits.
There you go. That's a great way to put it. But yeah, that experiment, that if we had a real education system, that would be something we'd be teaching in elementary school to kids, because it just says so much about so much. I mean, it's amazing, these little tiny creatures, and we can watch their spirits die from free resources. Because again, if they're just biological machines like the fedoras say, then it shouldn't work out that way, should it? And that's why so many fedoras, I guess, cling to the socialism, because if we're just biological machines, then free resources should work out great for us.
Well, I think it's, leftism in general, they want to remove any sense of man needing spirituality, because that counters most of their arguments. So they want that removed from any sort of argument.
Yeah.
And to make it sound as religious as possible, when in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve had everything given to them, and the leftists are trying to make a Garden of Eden on Earth now. But the problem is we're fallen people. We can't live in that environment anymore.
Well, but I mean, even Adam, when he was placed in the garden, was placed there to till the garden. Yes, it was a lot easier than after when the fall. But I mean, again, there is a theology about work. We were made.
Purpose. He had agency.
Yeah.
As I often like to joke, and anybody who's had even a layoff for a while can attest to this, let alone been out of work for a while. Not having a job is the only thing worse than having a job. I mean, the only thing worse than having to get up when that alarm clock goes off is having nowhere to go when you wake up.
Yeah.
Especially when those bills come in the mail. That's when you really feel it.
I paint twice as many models when I have a job as when I'm between jobs. So,
I've noticed that. Yeah, I've noticed too that if I take too long a vacation time in a row, I remember one time I took, I had 2.5 weeks of vacation time, but I took it all in a row. And by the end of it, I was like, damn it, I just want to go back to work.
Yeah, actually, that's why it's healthy. If for those of the people listening, you might want to try this. If you do have long vacations, if you can get like 2-week plus vacations, if your job lets them, split it up and take lots of long weekends. Throughout the year.
Yeah, definitely don't. I mean, unless you're planning some sort of big trip, don't punch your vacation days up.
Yeah, if you got a family and you're out planning some get, but I'm saying the single guys out there, try to do that, because it's nice to have those long weekends. It's really nice. Everybody loves like that 4th of July weekend when you got the especially in the summer. If your job allows you to break your vacation up, do it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I complain about my day job sometimes, but I'd be almost afraid to do this full time. Like if this took off and I was making tons of money from it and all, I mean, I guess eventually if it would reach a point where it just financially wouldn't make sense if it kept getting big enough, but I would be almost reluctant to pull that switch. And partially because I've seen E-Fame, look at the cautionary tale that is Spoonie. I've seen E-Fame destroy people. But yeah, I mean, work is good for the soul. There's no other way to put it. Or as I like to say, not having a job is the only thing worse than having a job. I mean, if I won the Powerball, I think I'd still get some little part-time job somewhere. I think I.
Well, no, you don't have to. You don't have. I mean, if I won the Powerball, no, I would not work. But I I would
You'd
refocus
have to
my
do
efforts.
something. Yeah, you'd have to.
Yes, I'm not. I wouldn't just sit around in a hammock on some island or something. No.
But like in
Well, I mean, this
Forrest
is why you
Gump,
see suicide rates are, pretty high amongst men who are retiring as well, when they're not working anymore after a time, I mean, again, they can very quickly do that. And for a while, that was
remember
a
in
very
Forrest
big problem.
Gump when he he became all rich towards the end of it, and he still mowed the lawn at the football field because he's like, I didn't even charge anymore. I just like doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I used to joke that if I won the lottery, I'd go work as a dishwasher in a kitchen somewhere at some restaurant. I'm like, because it's it's the best job there. You don't have to deal with customers. And just to get out of the house a couple days a week.
I know. If I won like the Powerball or something like that, or I just had unlimited funds for whatever reason, I would actually get my doctorate. And I'm not kidding. I would love to study, get a PhD in sociobiology or evolutionary psychology.
That'd be awesome. I think I'd hire a personal trainer and hit the gym for at least 6 hours a day or something like that every damn day.
Oh, I'd have a house built with a gym in it. So I don't have to deal with traffic to go to the gym. I just have a gym downstairs, and I'm so rich. The trainer comes to my house.
Yeah, I always like to joke. I'd hire a dominatrix as a personal trainer because if somebody's going to yell at you while you're working out, you might as well enjoy it. But
not after seeing the pics tonight.
I just want to reiterate that dominatrix is never going to be taking a crap on me, no matter how poorly my workout session went. All right, that's off the table. That's.
Did Paul dox this guy's name?
I'm not sure who doxed him. I just heard it was some anonymous guy doxed him, but I mean, this guy apparently is on this chick's website. So it couldn't have been that hard to I guess.
She must really hate him to display him so proudly.
I guess.
I mean, you have to be a special kind of sadistic to do shit like that.
Well, she's doing it because he's paying her. I mean, she doesn't give a shit. She
gives lots of shit.
Yeah, she does give a shit. But no, I mean, she's dead inside.
Yeah. No doubt.
Well, I always used to say that about porn stars. They always had this dead look in their eyes.
This just gets me to normal. Well, I mean, I guess those two kind of are porn stars.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? You remember that porn star Sasha Grey? She kind of went mainstream. She was on that Mark Wahlberg show. What was it? Entourage. She's been in a bunch of things.
Yeah, vaguely.
And she I swear, she was on she was on a talk show and stuff like that. And she looks like she was dead. She had doll's eyes, just dead inside. There's nothing there.
Black doll eyes, like a doll's eyes.
Yeah, right out of that scene from Jaws. Quint driving it. That's what she looked like. I mean, there was nothing behind it. It was just literally, like you said, dead inside. There was no soul there.
Yep. There's only so much of taking dumps on people, I guess, a person can do.
Well, there's some things you do you just can't come back from. I know you guys are always saying Jesus will forgive everything, but I think even he has his limits.
Oh no, he forgives you, but it's not. He didn't say anything about you feeling any better for it.
Yeah, he didn't say he's going to wash away all. He's going to forgive you from the otherworldly consequences. He didn't say anything about this world's consequences. He might fix those for you, but he's under no obligation. He said nothing about that.
Yeah, that's a nice bonus.
Yeah, he might forgive your sins, but he's not necessarily washing away the herpes.
Well, herpes is the least of this guy's problems.
Oh.
Yeah, this guy's got E. coli. I didn't know E. coli was a STD, but apparently.
Oh, E. coli is short for explosive colon. So.
Whatever happened to just getting a good old fashioned spanking? I don't know. I guess I'm simple folk. Oh lordy.
Open the box too many times.
You know what? One day I want to get Pastor Tom to do reviews of the Hellraiser movies, just because of the really interesting theology that's in them and all, and how amazingly they speak to the human condition.
Oh, the guy
that
from
would
the
actually
Hellraiser
be-
movies. Sorry to interrupt. Before I forget, the guy from the Hellraiser movies, I think he did the first two, was interviewed by.
Yeah, the guy who was the chattering Cenobite was he was on the Stark Truth. I've been meaning to listen to that episode.
Yeah.
You know, I just had a thought while you were suggesting that it would actually be really cool to have like a pastor's perspective version of like you know what Riff Tracks does now. The guys from MST3K nowadays they have their own fan commentaries that you can get and just start playing at the same time as the movies. That would be really interesting.
You know, a pastor's perspective on horror movies in general would be very interesting, and I mean, even more conservative perspectives on horror movies would be, because horror movies are often, I've seen articles saying this, like horror movies are very intrinsically K-type. You know, there's no negotiating or appeasing the monster in these movies. You know, there is stand up and fight or be destroyed. And I've even seen like liberals write articles complaining about the fact that so many horror movies have intrinsically Christian themes in them. They almost can't help but have them, you know, I mean, or at the very least, you know, culturally Christian themes in them, you know. I mean, how often does a horror movie have the devil as the bad guy, you know, or the monster?
Well, not just that. I think what you're referring to about the complaining was a lot of the slasher movies that came out, and you know the Friday the 13th
survived.
Friday. Yes, it's always the slut chick who gets her head chopped off.
Like you look at the mythos,
mythos.
you look at the mythos of say Friday the 13th. You know, Jason drowns in the water. This retarded kid Jason, because the camp counselors were too busy smoking pot and boning each other to watch him. So the first one involves the mother seeking revenge, and then later, you know, Jason seeking revenge, and then even Jason is risen from the grave, and he's basically a zombie animated by vengeance at this point. But even in his most almost mindless, basic animal cunning states, Jason is intrinsically drawn to debauchery, and that's what he attacks. You know, if there's, you know, if he's standing at an intersection and down that road there's a bunch of nuns, and down that road there's a bunch of porn stars, or he's heading down the road with the porn stars, all things being equal. That's just the nature of those stories. And yeah, it often is, you know, morality tales just subconsciously placed in there. Horror movies are remarkably K-type. I wish there were more Christians making horror movies so they could be even a bit more so. But there's no getting around that. I mean, as I said before, there's more interesting theology and more interesting things to say about the nature of temptation and sin and the human condition, and even the worst of the Hellraiser movies, and some of them are pretty bad, than, you know, a dozen Kendrick brothers films.
Well, speaking of media and film about theology, have any of you guys seen or heard about the Young Pope?
No.
No.
I have heard of it. I think I've seen a trailer, but like I haven't really done much else with it.
Okay, imagine Davis Arini becoming Pope. I'm not kidding. Right down to the chain smoking.
Oh, now I have to see it now.
I mean, he outlaws. You know, immediately he. You guys might get a kick out of this. He uncucks the church, where he prevents priests from giving absolution in the confessional to women who have had abortions. He calls it a mild form of excommunication.
That actually sounds interesting.
Yeah, I downloaded all of them off a torrent because it was shown in Europe, and oh my god, I'm admitting to piracy. To piracy.
We got you now.
Yeah,
As long as it's not butt piracy.
Yeah. But I've seen them all, and it's interesting, and it's going to be. I don't know if it started on HBO or it will start on HBO very soon. And what's his name? I think Jude Law plays the Pope.
Yeah.
I remember years ago there was and not totally related, but just reminding me of it. The guy who did Walking Dead, and also if you're a comic book fan, Invincible. One of his earliest creator-owned comics was something called Battle Pope, and the premise of it was there was this Pope who was this hard drinking, hard fucking guy who he wasn't a religious guy at all. He basically just liked the office of the Pope, and he was banging whores and stuff. Well, then the rapture happens, and he's left behind, and so he's stuck fighting demons. and he gets all like God takes pity on him, so he gives him a halo from an angel that gives him powers, and he's shooting demons and all. And at one point he says to God, he's like, well, you must believe in me if you gave me this halo. And he's like, are you kidding? Those things are all over the place here. We use them as coasters.
This is such a mess.
But yeah,
the Catholic Pope doesn't get raptured.
Granted,
it's the battle demons.
What was that Dante's Divine Comedy where the Pope is in the last circle of hell?
Yeah, granted, I read that in my teenage years when I was a bit of a fedora agnostic, but I do remember getting a real kick out of it. So.
But you guys, I do suggest you watch the new HBO movie Irenaeus Pope. You probably get a kick out of it.
Is that the official title?
Yeah, that's what we're going to call it.
Well, maybe I will take a look at the Hellraiser. I've seen them before. I mean, when I was younger, I did used to like horror movies quite a good bit. So I actually have seen the Hellraiser movies before. It's been a while.
I think
but I might take a look at them again from a more theological perspective. I really enjoy the music in the second one. It's very epic and really kind of captures the moment of what's actually happening here.
I think the first one is kind of really slow. It's almost hard to watch multiple times for me. The second one is really good. Hellseeker, I think, is the best one by far.
And that's the one that has Dax in it.
No. That one is crap. I don't even remember which one that is.
That's the third one.
Yeah, the third one is Hell on Earth.
Yeah, it's got Dax in it.
Yeah, that one. No, Hellseeker is the other one I was thinking of. I don't even know which one that is because they stopped numbering them by that point. But it came out in 2002. That is, I think, the best one of the bunch. But Hell on Earth is pretty good. There's actually a scene where she's running from these Cenobites and she runs into a church and she's telling the pastor, or no, it was a Catholic church. She's telling the priest, there's a demon coming. And he's like, demons are just parables. And then Pinhead bursts the door open and she's like, then what the fuck is that? But yeah, it's there's a lot of just the one thing I actually really love about the Hellraiser movies, and I thought of this a while ago when I slogged through there was a one recently that didn't even have Doug Bradley as Pinhead. I think it might even have been a reboot, but it was pretty terrible. But one thing that I really like about Doug Bradley's performance as Pinhead, and this might even be the result of him being a bad actor, but it works perfectly for the role. If you don't know the mythos, Pinhead used to be a man, and he, the Hellraiser boxes we always talk about here, he was such a hedonist, trying constantly, and everything eventually just got him to normal. So he opens up the Hellraiser box, and these BDS&M demons come out and drag him to hell, where they're gonna, I guess, make him a shit-eating cuck for all eternity. And so that's his thing, when you open the box, he comes and takes you to hell. Well, there's the thing about Doug Bradley's performance a lot of times is more often than not, Pinhead looks bored and distracted by everything. Like he's just punching a clock. You know what I mean? Like it's just a day at the office for Pinhead. You know what I mean?
But that's a perfect characterization of a demon.
Exactly. And like this could be that Doug Bradley's a bad actor for all I know, because I've never really seen him in anything else. But it's almost like how in the Matrix movie, Keanu Reeves always looks confused and frightened, and that worked really well in the Matrix movie because what the hell's going on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it could be that kind of thing where a bad actor is just really well casted. I don't know, but Doug Bradley's Pinhead, he seems so bored and distracted by it all. And isn't that what Pinhead's personal hell is?
Yeah.
That now this just gets him to normal?
Well, I think one of the interesting things about the Hellraiser movies is the fact that, with a lot of the people that end up dragging, there's this just destruction of the body and of the soul and everything like that, but it's done under the idea that this is going to create pleasure. And so they're spending eternity tearing themselves apart, destroying themselves for the sake of wanting to get that extra kick, that pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, for most of them, that's their hell.
That's pretty.
Which
cool.
is
There's a scene in Hellraiser 3 where Pinhead is for whatever reason he's in this statue that this guy had made. This guy, I guess, had made a statue, and he was he was like a club owner, and he was just a bored hedonist, and he made this statue of like tortured bodies all mangled, and I guess somehow he had gotten the box and put it in the statue as he was sculpting it, and Pinhead ends up possessing this statue. And there's a scene in there where he ends up he's fucking this chick that he picks up at the club, in his little bedroom above the club or whatever. And, she thinks that this dude loves her, and he's like, no, get the fuck out of here afterwards, and she's like, you bastard, and all. And then right in that moment, Pinhead, comes to life in the statue and basically just, eats her. He, the chains come out and chop her all up, and he just eats her, right? And this guy's in the corner all scared, and Pinhead says to her, he goes, you enjoyed the girl. And he's like, yeah. And he goes, good, so did I. And he says something like, no, man, what you did, that was fucking evil. And Pinhead's laughing at him. He's like, and he goes, how uncomfortable that word must be on your tongue. And at one point, he pulls out a gun that he's gonna, and this is obviously a spoiled rich kid and all. He pulls out a gun that he's about to shoot this Pinhead statue in the face with, and Pinhead just says something like, "Oh, how touching! That is the gun you used to kill your parents, right?" And then he looks at her. He goes, "Oh, I understand. Their fortune so tempting, their affection so conditional. What could you do?" It's just full of such great moments like that it just. Even just going through on YouTube and finding a best of Pinhead quotes or something, it is enough to get a feel for the series. And don't get me wrong, there are some bad Hellraiser movies. I'm not going to lie to you. There's been 40 of these damn things. So,
Well, that was my question. How many are there?
I'm not even sure.
I
There's
think there's 11.
Legends say they got to 14.
Yeah, there's 1488 of them. Opening the Hellraiser box is the last stand of implicit white identity. But yeah, I'm not even sure, to be honest. There are times I'm not even sure I own them all. I'm looking. They're like Bond movies. You got to look online to see if you got them all. Because they don't even number them after.
Looking at the monsters, it looks more like Pokemon for edgelords.
It's
Gotta catch them all.
Hot topic Pokemon.
Keep them in a box instead of a ball.
Oh, right here, this picture that Luke has up, right? If you'll see in the left side here, there's the one where these two guys are sewn together and their heads are kind of twisted together, right?
Mm-hmm.
We actually see their origin in Bloodlines. And what it is it's these two identical twins who are security guards at some building where Pinhead has been summoned, right? And as he's about ready to fuck them up and turn them into Cenobites, he says to him I can feel your worst fears. Please don't separate me from my brother. And he goes, I assure you that will never happen.
Oh.
There's canonically a really interesting origin for every one of them. Whether or not it's shown on film, it's at least hinted around to. And Like that Chatterer dude right there with like his mouth all open and the teeth like coming out. That's the actor that played that. Is who Robert Stark interviewed. At one point, we see him in his human form, and he's a little kid. And I off the top of my head, if they explained exactly what that is, I can't remember what it is. But yeah, there was actually Boom Studios.
This is amusing seeing them in kawaii moe anime style.
Yeah, I really love that. I love the kawaii.
Kawaii is the pronunciation. You
Whatever,
uncultured swine.
Whatever, you weeb. But yeah, I really Boom Studios a couple years ago did a Hellraiser comic that was just amazing. That was the first couple story arcs were actually written by Clive Barker, or at least like co-written or something.
Well, the director of Event Horizon actually wanted the Hellraiser box to be in that movie, thinking that the ship from the Event Horizon was supposed to be structured around the box itself.
Cool.
That's pretty cool. I love the mythos behind Hellraiser. Again, a lot of the movies themselves aren't that great, but as far as the actual, again, mythos behind it, the basic concept is probably the best in all of horror.
My favorite horror film is still The Exorcist.
Yeah, that is a great movie.
Because it's all about the mood.
It's kind of weird, though, in the movie, how they show all that stuff in the desert before, which makes a lot of sense in the book. But in the movie, because they don't show enough of it, it almost just feels like this extra scene that has little to nothing to do with anything else.
See the director's cut.
Yeah, the director's cut. I've seen that where, yeah, it elaborates on that more. But the regular cut, it's like they should have just completely cut it out or kept more of it in. But the way it stands in its original form, it's like, this is just, here's the scene that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. And then the rest of the movie.
Yeah, there's the demon coming back, and then you find out that Lancaster Marin, the priest, he had battled this demon before. It's because
it's not a very.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I was moving us off top. I was going to move us to another movie, but so you can finish here.
Oh no! I basically they call it The Exorcist. The movie is really about Lancaster Marin, who gets like the least amount of screen time of the major actors in it. But it's really, the film is really actually about him. The priest the old priest who dies at the end. I mean, he's at the beginning and then he dies at the end. I mean, ultimately, it's about him and his battle with this demon.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, an interesting take on that was it's not a very good movie, but The Last Exorcism, with the premise where you have this preacher who's a charlatan. He doesn't really believe this anymore. He's just kind of going around and doing this, and then he gets called to an exorcism, and it ends up being the real deal, even though he doesn't believe it anymore. The movie wasn't very good, but it was an interesting concept.
Have you ever seen the Exorcism of Emily Rose?
Yeah.
The movie is actually told it like the exorcism stuff is told in flashback, because the movie starts with the priest on trial for like manslaughter of the Emily Rose, because she died during the exorcism like proceedings. So there's this sort of like courtroom drama laid on top of all the flashback sequences, and it's pretty well done, and it's one of the few horror movies that I think is pretty decent despite being a PG-13 rating. Because it does a good job of a lot of very disturbing and creepy imagery without necessarily having gore in it.
Yeah. Also, the female lawyer that's representing him, she's an atheist.
Yeah,
and kind of how she's forced to kind of come to grips with, another realm.
Well, she actually,
so it's kind of like God's Not Dead too.
Yeah, it's sort of like what God's Not Dead should have been. But no, she at one point she calls herself full on it. She says like, I don't know if I believe in God. I guess I'm an agnostic. I don't know. And the priest says, well, if you don't know, then you're an agnostic. I apologize. My bratty dog is crying in the corner there. I think he needs to go out, but he has to wait. I have dominion over you, beast. Well, you know, honestly, that's probably about all we got for this week. Anybody got any closing thoughts?
I just think this was a great show, by the way. My 2 cents.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, do check out our sponsors this week. We got Button Naked. If you use the promo code Shitlord with a 5. That's 5 HITLORD. You can get 20% off any order of $20 or more. Also, Aaron Clary's fine audio books, great stuff there. The independent comic Ojo Negro, available in both print and physical, or print and digital form, and the book Reactionary Libertarianism, or did I just butcher the name of it? What is it?
Reactionary Liberty.
Reactionary Liberty. Thank you.
Yeah,
Reactionary Liberty. Apologize there, but very interesting book. And also, you will see the tip jar below, where if you appreciate this show, I would certainly appreciate $1 or $2 thrown my way. Certainly, you don't have to send me $100 or $1,000, although I wouldn't turn that down. You know, even $1 is appreciated. You know, $2, $3, appreciate it. You know, what's $2? It's a soda at the gas station for you. But if all of you listening send me $2, it's quite the boon for me. So if you appreciate this show, reference. you know, cough up them shekels.
He needs about $350.
Yeah, all of you need to send me about $350. But yeah, cough up them shekels there, folks. Make with the shekels. Don't forget about the 6 million. Yeah, I need 6 million shekels. That's what I need. But yes, do check out our sponsors and check, like I said, check out our sponsors. That helps me too, folks. You know, these are good products. I don't take sponsorships from people I don't think, you know, from products I don't think would interest you. And if you're just a cheap, broke ass bastard and you can't afford a button from Button Naked, you can't afford to throw me even $1, you cheap bastard. The least you can do is like, comment, and subscribe. And hey, I give you guys the chat, and that means I don't get as many comments. So hey, if you listen to this later in the week, maybe throw a comment down there. You know, that helps this channel grow. So yeah, that's all I got for this week, folks. Thank everybody for being on here. And Bechtloff